Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Glory of the Sun God. Chapter 81. Unaware that a Smurf was following him, Wang Hao shut his mouth. The sky full of flames completely wiped out the space in front of him, not to mention the ugly carry fighter. Everything, clouds, dust or other strange things, were all burned to foam. Comfortable. Looking at the clean sky, Wang Hao let out a long sigh, stretched himself, and then returned to the cabin. No one should bother us now. Tony looked at Wang Hao, who came in, and asked with a smile. He also saw that the person who let go before was intentional by Wang Hao, just for that. But he doesn't mind. For one thing, his kindness is only limited to the people on Earth, and he doesn't have the awareness to extend his kindness to aliens. Secondly, those people killed themselves. Wang Hao was still talking. They opened fire, and this wave of fighter jets obviously didn't come here to reason, so if they are extinguished, they will be extinguished. That's not good. Those people are Kree people, and they are famous lunatics in the universe. However, in the driver's seat, the Rockets had different opinions on this. Kree, oh, I forgot that you just walked out of your home planet. The Kree people are a very well-known race in the universe. The Kree Empire is located in the large Magellanic Cloud Galaxy next to the Milky Way. Together with the Sheer Empire and the Skrull Empire, they are also known as the three major empires in the universe. Wow! Hearing the Rockets' science popularization, Tony and the others gasped in amazement, and only then did they realize what kind of existence they and the others were facing. The Kree people have been expanding outwards for thousands of years, and their power has developed rapidly. There are many outposts and bases of them in the Milky Way. However, the Nova Corps has been resisting their invasion and has been fighting with them for quite a long time. The forces in the Milky Way are relatively scattered, and there is no unified and powerful civilization. As the oldest and most powerful force in the Milky Way, Biffy, the Nova Corps has a program of messengers of justice, so it has assumed the responsibility of resisting invaders. In fact, the Earth has long been patronized by the Kree, and there is even a corpse of a Kree in S.H.I.E.L.D. Wang Hao continued following the Rocket's words. In the movie, Phil Coulson was stabbed to death by Loki, but he was later resurrected in the S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent TV series, and the resurrection relied on the special blood provided by the Kree corpse. Not only that, the TV series also introduces a lot of things about the Kree, including the inhuman race with super ability produced by the Kree genetic modification on the Earth, the conflict between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Kree, and the battle with them in the universe, scene and so on. Definitely, the most famous one is Captain Marvel. Her appearance was completely caused by the Kree people, and her life was basically inseparable from the Kree people. Then can you handle it? Tony and Banner, who were educated by the Rockets and Wang Hao, also understood that the Kree are very powerful and powerful existences in the universe. But it also made Tony a little more worried. A powerful empire that runs across a galaxy is not comparable to Chidori's 3 melons and 2 dates. Tony knows how huge the Milky Way is, and people on Earth can't even go out of the solar system, let alone the Kree Empire that can invade the entire Milky Way. Did you misunderstand me? To Tony's question, Wang Hao looked back at him like a fool. It's just a Kree Empire, you'd be ashamed to compare it to me. But it's no wonder, if it's Tony on Earth too, who has a wider level of knowledge and has experienced real space wars, he may know that this kind of worry is completely unnecessary. After all, if Thanos really wants to talk about it, he is actually more powerful than the Kree Empire. Tony on Earth too has also bleed from Thanos, so why do you care about the Kree people? And Wang Hao crushed Thanos to death casually, and Ronan is naturally not worth mentioning. Don't worry, you can go back alive and make a villain with Pepper. Patting Tony on the shoulder, Wang Hao sat back on the sofa in his lobby, with Chenur leaning on his arms, and the two continued to watch the Alien movie they hadn't finished before. Beep beep. But this movie is probably really endless. Not long after they sat down, the sound of radar sounded again, and everyone looked up at Tony. This time his face was not in a hurry. It's not the Kree people, it's the signal at the foot, we seem to have found it. Tony sent the radar signal map to the big screen, and everyone soon saw 10 beacons flashing in a certain mountain less than tens of kilometers away from them. It doesn't have to be, at least it's a once prosperous civilization, or it may be some other treasure. Banner spoke after studying for a while. Tony, who was a little excited at first, nodded after thinking about it. Indeed, there is no reason to find such a large planet, and with such a prosperous civilization, there should indeed be many similar ruins and temples. It's better not to have too many expectations. Having said that, the spacecraft is still heading towards the source of the signal. A distance of tens of kilometers can be reached in the blink of an eye, and the huge Carey flagship in the sky is also constantly approaching the area. The dilapidated temple was quickly found. After all, the surface of this planet is basically ruins, and the slightly complete buildings are very conspicuous. Let's go down and have a look. Landing the spacecraft, Wang Hao also wanted to know if he was really lucky to find this power gem within half a day after coming here. You know, the area they searched in half a day is less than 1,000th of this planet. If they found it so easily, they must buy a lottery ticket when they go back. This is infinite gems, and there is no better prize than this in the universe. Pack up your equipment. After all, there are still ordinary people. Although Wang Hao himself doesn't need it, Tuo Miao, Natasha Romanoff and others still put on the nano armor honestly. This is an alien planet. The atmosphere, microbiome and all kinds of radiation are different from the Earth. If you are not careful, they may be lying on the ground foaming at the mouth in a second. Although Wang Hao can save them, why bother Wang Hao when he can just be careful? The oxygen content in the air is 22%, which is similar to that of the Earth, but the content of carbon dioxide is much higher, and nitrogen is not the main component. Preliminary conclusion: poisonous. Wearing armor and looking around, Tony muttered something, and then saw a golden light flashing around him. Wang Hao wrapped himself, the three of them, in a golden transparent sphere. The air smells a bit stinky. Wang Hao's face was not very good looking. Not only him, Chenur and Anna also looked disgusted. Sometimes the divine body is not so omnipotent. At times like this, it is troublesome to wear armor, but if you don't wear it, you have to smell the stench. Not only that, it's okay if the air smells bad. Wang Hao and the others can do without breathing, but the continuous rainy weather and the gusts of damp wind made him very uncomfortable, so he simply created a barrier to isolate himself from the outside world. The so-called alien exploration suddenly made him lose a lot of interest. He also thought of it at this time. The explorer is actually just looking glamorous. The role of the explorer portrayed in movies, TV series or novels is almost omnipotent and omniscient. But in reality, the life of an explorer is more miserable than that of the other. After all, only when they are in a dangerous situation is it called an adventure, and those dangerous situations are all complicated terrain and harsh environment. A disheveled face, cold steamed buns and cold water are the normal state of an explorer, and that kind of life is obviously not what Wang Hao wants. Just like this Morag planet, not to mention exploring, if you don't put up a barrier, even the air is so smelly, how can you have the mood to stay here? Forget it, get the power gem and leave as soon as possible. When he reached the entrance of the temple, Wang Hao had already made up his mind. Even if the temple wasn't the one where the power gem was placed, he was going to open the game to find something and leave. Sitting in the spaceship feels pretty good, but I didn't know it looked like this when it came out. Hey, this door is locked. Suddenly, Tony, who was walking in front, let out a scream. While talking, he stretched out his hand and pushed, and even used the thrusters of the battle armor, trying to push the door open with brute force. No, there's something behind it, and I feel like we might have found a place. Morag has been dilapidated for a long time. After such a long time, the function of this temple can still operate. Even if it is not a power gem, it may be an extremely precious treasure. Thinking of this, Tony suddenly got excited, and started to study the door lock while lying on the door. It was a hole in the door, and it seemed that some kind of key could be inserted into it to open it. Tony stretched out his finger after studying for a while, and a layer of nanoparticles separated from his hand and penetrated into the lock cylinder. Well, wait, it'll be fine soon, I found a way, as long as this turn around to the left. Tony was in high spirits, and the plot of solving the puzzle and opening the key finally gave him some sense of adventure. Boom, okay, open it. Tony was so excited that he turned his head to look at the door on the ground. Door panel. Looking at Tony, who looked at him with a doubtful expression on his life, Wang Hao withdrew his hand, and then motioned for the people behind to follow. Look at me, go in. In this way, a group of people walked straight into the temple under the leadership of Wang Hao. while Tony watched every person who entered through the door that Wang Hao opened with a slap, and the fire in his eyes was about exploration, getting weaker and weaker. It's okay, King of Habits. Banner, who was at the back, patted Tony on the shoulder, and then hurriedly followed the large group. It's so old and you're still exploring. Wouldn't it be nice to go home and make a villain with your mother-in-law if you have the time? Speaking of which, it's time for me to ask the boss to help solve Hulk's problem. Betty, I don't know if you are married or not. Everyone doesn't know Banner's heartfelt words, and there are more urgent things to deal with now. The temple is very simple. After the gate is opened, there is a hall, and then there is a stone platform in the middle of the hall. Some kind of energy sealing device seals a ball inside, and it may be dedicated to the family. Is it this one? Everyone looked at Wang Hao, waiting for his reply. Wang Hao, on the other hand, looked at this thing and fell into deep thought. Is my luck really that good? Although he did know that the power gem was stored in such a place through the movie, but it didn't make sense to find it so easily. This is a planet bigger than the Earth. If you really search for it seriously, it won't be too much to search for a year or so. The fact that the Kree have searched for so long but failed to find it is proof. But no matter what, this thing is in front of you now, so there is no need to worry about luck or anything. Looking at the stone platform in front of him that was banned by the energy seal, 977, Wang Hao stretched out his hand directly. The turbulent energy position was enough to burn Xinyan's powerful mechanical body, but facing Wang Hao's body, this energy was like a stream, generally soft. Holding the cosmic spirit ball and pulling it out of the seal, the stone platform lost its core, and its energy disappeared immediately. Ignoring these changes, Wang Hao looked at the sphere in his hand, and counted 5 fingers. Click. The crisp sound surprised everyone, especially the purple energy that swarmed and leaked out, making everyone present have the illusion of facing a peerless beast. But as the golden light flashed, the purple energy was directly restrained back, and then, a purple gemstone appeared in Wang Hao's hands. That's right, it's the power gem. Playing with the small stone in his hand, Wang Hao waved his hand, space gem and mind gem appeared together, and he collected all 3 infinite gems. Forget it. Don't think about collecting all 6 gems, it's meaningless, and I don't want to lose Chunur for just 1 soul gem. Putting the 3 gems away again, Wang Hao no longer thought about the powerful power he felt at the beginning. In fact, it's not that powerful. He can't be killed if he collects all 6 gems, at most he can't be beaten. It's really unnecessary to force him to collect all 6 gems. At most, I will take the reality gem by the way when I go back. As for the soul gem, I will leave it to Thanos as a thought. Okay, the treasure hunt is over, let's go back. Before the last sound disappeared in the air, Wang Hao suddenly raised his head and looked into the sky. At the same time, the communication linking to the spacecraft radar on Tony's armor began to alarm frantically, indicating the arrival of the attack. Why do you like courting death so much? Wang Hao shook his head and sighed, feeling unworthy of some people's lives. In the next instant, the light on this planet was activated, photons were transmitted, and the figure of Wang Hao appeared above the temple. And in the clouds, huge amounts of carry warships are still slowly approaching. Since you want to court death, let's use you to try how powerful this thing is. The purple gemstone of power appeared in the palm of his hand. Wang Hao clenched his hands. Suddenly, all the forces in the universe appeared in front of his eyes. The 4 basic forces became musical scores, allowing him to pluck the string. Scatter. As soon as the thought came, the world turned upside down. The concentrated ion energy cannon lost its cohesive power in an instant, the electromagnetic force lost its effect at this instant, and all the energy dissipated in an instant, turning into a blue meteor. Fall. The gigantic battleship had just revealed a corner, but it suddenly began to fall. The anti-gravity system lost its effect, and the gravity exerted by the planet doubled at the moment. Amidst the ear-piercing whistling sound, the flagship, which was like a city in the air, hit the ground, and the steel skeleton could hardly support such a torque. Under the extremely rapid change of strength, the entire warship groaned in pain, and this was the case for a warship made of steel, not to mention the passengers inside. From Wang Hao's perspective, the dense flames of life in this Kree battleship were rapidly extinguishing, and before it hits the ground, the sudden change in motion and the strong acceleration of gravity alone caused a large number of lives to die, perish. But the demise of these lives does not make Wang Hao feel compassion. If you want to show mercy to your own enemies, then you can only say that Wang Hao should not be the sun god, but the god of cerebral palsy. Shock. Falling from an altitude of 10,000 meters under the blessing of dozens of times the acceleration of gravity, but these are not enough to destroy a battleship of a famous and powerful civilization in the universe. So Wang Hao added fuel to the fire. At the moment of the fall, the huge impact generated by the collision between the Carey battleship and the Morag ground was converted into kinetic energy and began to spread around. However, with a flick of Wang Hao's fingers, the impact force that should have been spreading around changed its direction. As a motion vector, shockwave should have spread from the inside out, from the point of impact to the surroundings. However, Wang Hao, who holds the power gem, can clearly see the root of all power, so it is not difficult to turn around. There were no explosions, no sparks, not even waves. At the moment of the collision, all the forces that should spread outward turned inward, and this led to an extremely strange collapse. At least equivalent to the impact force of hundreds of mushroom bomb explosions all concentrated inward to one point. This time, even the sound could not escape, and the entire Carey warship disappeared strangely after this strange collision. At least the shield helicarrier, which is more than 100 times larger than the Carey battleship, fell from an altitude of 10,000 meters under the action of tens of times the acceleration of gravity induced by Wang Hao. Such huge potential energy is transformed into kinetic energy, which is powerful enough to shake the continental shelf of the continent where Wang Hao is located. However, due to Wang Hao's twist, all the impact force that should spread out is shrunk inward, so the entire Cree battleship seems to have a singularity in the center, creating a black hole. So, when Wang Hao came to the place where the warship crashed, the only thing he found was a deep pit. The pit is not big, with a diameter of about 10 meters. Looking down, it is a strange spherical object. Such a large battleship, probably more than hundreds of thousands of tons, has been compressed to such a large size that the pressure is so strong that the Earth's crust will be pierced. Looking at the pit, Wang Hao didn't find any breath of life, including the powerful breath on the battleship that was comparable to Hulk when he saw the battleship before. Therefore, Wang Hao didn't bother to continue to pay attention to it, and because of this, he didn't know that the one he shot to death was Ronan, the villain who prompted the formation of Guardians of Galaxy. Definitely, the two members of the Silver Guard, Groot and Rocket, have become Wang Hao's younger brothers, and the Silver Guard will naturally cease to exist. The sad Ronan originally wanted to make two tricks with Wang Hao, but he was just pretentious. He who wanted to revitalize the Kree Empire probably never dreamed of it. He didn't even have a chance to brag to Wang Hao before belching. "Let's go home, this poor place is enough." When the waves came out, Wang Hao looked at the terrible environment of Morag, and felt bored in his heart. By the way, it's an abandoned planet anyway, so let's recycle it. Wang Hao suddenly thought of something, a smile appeared on his unhappy face, and with this smile, Wang Hao returned to the temple. "Let's go, the problem has been solved, the treasure has been found, it's time to leave." Hearing what he said, except for Tony, everyone in Yin's family looked like they could finally leave. Not talking nonsense at the moment, the group quickly returned to the spaceship and took off. It was not until they had entered space and were about to start the space jump that Wang Hao stopped the spaceship for a while, and then flew out alone. "What is he doing? I don't know. Didn't the problem be solved?" Tony sat in the passenger seat and talked to Rocket, but suddenly, both of them shut up and stopped talking because their jaws couldn't close anymore. In the dark universe, only the stars in the distance illuminate this place. And in front of them is an abandoned planet that is dark all day long. But suddenly, a ray of light bloomed, and the purple ray seemed to be grasped by a manipulative hand on Morag. Afterwards, this planet, which was much larger than the Earth, began to disintegrate and crack. Under the incomparably powerful force, this planet was decomposed into the most primitive structure. Soil, metal, water, organic matter, inorganic matter, life is washed, pure elements are extracted, and then turned into a long river, sinking into a big bottomless mouth. The kingdom of God opened up, and a large piece of soil and matter suddenly appeared in the empty kingdom of God, bringing something different to this space. Well, forget about the planet, just make it a continent, it's easy to operate. A circular continent was squeezed out by Wang Hao, receiving the brilliance of the sun under his body golden crow. This continent is extremely huge and extremely empty. Although Wang Hao made Ocean randomly generate some mountains and hills, as well as basins and valleys, the most important things are still missing here. Life. But there is no need to worry about this. There is light, water, organic and inorganic substances, all the elements for the birth of life are already available, and the rest is time. Ocean, speed up the passage of time in the kingdom of God. In addition, use your will to create some life seeds and put them in. The empty kingdom of God soon came alive, but Wang Hao didn't pay attention anymore. It has taken billions of years for the Earth civilization to develop to the present level. Even if Wang Hao shortened this process many times, it is not enough to see the birth of life in the blink of an eye. Where do we go next? Seeing Wang Hao return to the spaceship, and look at the vanished Morag planet outside, Tony's tone suddenly became more respectful. Although it is not the first time to see Wang Hao perform a real miracle, but it is the first time to see such a spectacular miracle. It turns out that what Wang Hao said, that the earth in his hands is almost the same as a marble toy in the hands of a child, is true. Go back to Earth directly, I want to eat skewers. The time flies, and after a few jumps, the Rainbow spacecraft appears in the outer space of the Earth. Looking at the familiar blue water polo, Tony, who had been away from home for a while, felt a little excited. That's Earth. I know. Rocket said impatiently that he had never been home, so he couldn't understand Tony's eagerness to go home. So, why are you in such a hurry to come back? A few hours later, looking at Tony who was being chased around by a human woman named Pepper, Rocket asked suspiciously. You still know that when you come back, you are so weak, throwing everything at me, and running out to play by yourself, my mother will resign. This is family, little raccoon, you will understand one day, there are creatures like you on the earth, maybe I can take you to the zoo to pick a partner. Ah! Tony, who was hit by an unknown object, screamed and quickly put on the armor, but the anger accumulated for a long time by the woman behind him was not so easy to dispel, so he could only continue to run for his life. On a sunny afternoon, by the Seine River, Wang Hao, who accompanied Chenur to admire the fallen leaves of the champs, was smiling and enjoying the beauty of life. Beep. Hey, what's the matter? The call from the other side of the Atlantic brought Wang Hao back from his idle time, and on the other end of the phone, that hasty and excited voice was shouting excitedly. I made it. What succeeded? Your side, it's still morning, you haven't slept all night. Looking at the time, Wang Hao's expression was slightly surprised. But then it was a relief to think that the guy was a workaholic and a scientist in addition to being a playboy and a superhero. Sleep? Who can sleep at a time like this? I've finished the thing you asked me to do. Where are you now? Come back and have a look. After hanging up the phone, Wang Hao stretched his waist, then looked at Chenur who was holding a book next to him, and stretched out his hand to close the book. Stop pretending, you want to go out and play too. Hee, you found out. Chenur put down the book, then stood up from the armchair, held hands with Wang Hao, and disappeared into the light together. It has been almost a month since Wang Hao and others came back from space. For more than a month, Wang Hao has basically been shopping and eating, and accompanied Chenur to travel around the mountains and rivers all day long, feeling the customs of various places. During the period, he took time to go to hell, and when he promised to help Tony bring his parents back to life, Wang Hao naturally had to realize it. But to his surprise, he did find the souls of Howard Stark and Maria Stark, but the other party was unwilling to return to the human world. So he could only ask Tony to chat with them, which was to settle his thoughts. After this incident, Wang Hao had a whim and asked Tony to help him develop a device. The phone call just now was Tony notifying Wang Hao that the delivery was ready. In a certain building on the outskirts of New York, the figures of Wang Hao and Chenur suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Yes people, this is the new Avengers Alliance base. Definitely, after participating in the final battle, everyone agrees with Wang Hao's statement. Revenge seemed too humble and a failure. Only after others have caused harm can you retaliate against your opponent. No matter how you look at it, this kind of behavior seems so pale and powerless. Ever since, the Avengers were disbanded and replaced by a new organization, the Overwatch. The world needs heroes. And here is the Watchmen base sponsored by Tony. Why are you here? Seeing the captain and others gathered here, Wang Hao was a little surprised. He had been here a few times before, but they seemed to be quite busy. Basically, except for the Banner couple who stayed behind, everyone else was busy outside. As for Banner's wife, Wang Hao found it by himself after helping him solve the problem of Hulk's strength. Dr. Betty Ross, the daughter of General Ross, a woman who is nearly 40 years old and has not yet married, just to wait for her Bruce Banner. Now the two of them had a happy ending. He told us to come back. By the way, do you know what's under the Atlantic Ocean? I was investigating a missing ship recently. The report said that there were signs of unknown biological activity on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The captain looked dusty, but it was rare to see Wang Hao. He was worried too much and quickly asked about the things that bothered him recently. Atlantic, are you sure it's the bottom of the ocean? The captain nodded. Since the development of human civilization, there are very few places on Earth that humans have not set foot on. But the seabed of the ocean is such an area. In any case, the seabed tens of thousands of meters deep is temporarily closed to humans. Atlantis. Wang Hao gave his own answer. What? That legendary ancient civilization? Everyone in the room opened their mouths wide open. Some couldn't believe that the legend had become a reality. How can there be so many groundless things in this world? Just like Asgard's myths and legends, Atlantis is also real. Wang Hao looked at the only Thor in the room who didn't show any surprise. This guy has a lot of headaches recently. Loki defeated him and became the king of Asgard. He, a loser, can only end up on the earth as a superhero. Quote. Yes, Atlantis was a very powerful ancient kingdom on the earth more than 5,000 years ago, and Asgard has records about them. After being confirmed by Thor, everyone nodded and accepted the information. Did they really live at the bottom of the sea all the time? How do I know? If you have the ability, you can ask them to go. If you want to know, go to T'Challa yourself. Wakanda is only a few hours away from Atlantis. Curious baby Tony Stark came over again, but Wang Hao didn't know about this matter. Regarding the Atlantis movie, Marvel plans to make it but hasn't made it yet, just buried a good foreshadowing in the Avengers Alliance. In the comics, Aquaman Namor is mutant. Although as a member of the Illuminati, he is a key figure in the main universe of the comics, the copyright of Mutant was not in the hands of Marvel at the beginning, and he was with X-Men on 20th Century Fox, so the Marvel movie universe couldn't do Namor in the first place. It even made this genuine Aquaman robbed of its title by the Aquaman next door. That's right, Namor is Aquaman, and Arthur Curry from Zhenglian next door cannot be called Aquaman, because Arthur plagiarized the character created by Namor, just like Deadpool plagiarized the death knell. But the fact is, Wang Hao doesn't know what the situation of Atlantis is in this world that is more biased towards the movie universe. He doesn't even know if the king of Atlantis in this world is Aquaman. Wakanda, I will go to see it when I have time. I heard that the technology there is very advanced, and I also have some needs for vibranium. Tony shrugged, accepted Wang Hao's impatience, and then led everyone to another room. Some time ago, to be precise, after we came back from Morag, our sun god commissioned me to make such a device. The originally spacious laboratory is not spacious now, and a not-so-small instrument occupies most of the entire space. Don't be a fool, just say it. Seeing Tony's smug look, even the captain couldn't stand it anymore, and directly interrupted his singing. Hey, this is a hyperspace-time quantum communication device. It is based on the upgrade of the space-time beacon I made, and with a special detector, I can use it to link to other universes. Tony started to demonstrate while talking. Connect the energy, turn on the device, and after a round of complicated operations, a projection screen unfolds in front of everyone. Hey, why are you guys? I saw someone calling. Wait, have you traveled through time again? The one who appeared on the projected screen was none other than old Tony holding the cute little Morgan Stark. No, we have not passed away, we are still on Earth 1. Tony walked to the front excitedly, looked at the little Morgan on the screen, and greeted her warmly. Hello, cutie. Hello, Stark uncle. The last time Tony and Morgan met on Earth 2, the two Tonys explained to her that they were twins. As for the parallel universe, when she grows up, she will naturally understand. But Tony's words caught his attention on Earth 2. You are still on Earth 1, but you can call me again. Oh, I see, you have upgraded my space-time beacon technology, good job. The two Tonys gave each other a thumbs up and praised each other for their wit. And this demonstration also made the current watchman understand the principle and function of this machine. For a moment, everyone was attracted, and they called themselves or other people on Earth too to harass them. Although we didn't get along for a long time before, it must be the easiest thing to have a common topic with yourself. So the relationship between the two teams of Avengers is actually quite good. And after everyone had tried it, Wang Hao asked, "So have other worlds been tested? Don't tell me that you really built a phone, what I want is to explore other universes. The multi-universe is boundless, not to mention the parallel universes of each universe. In Marvel's list, there are too many numbered universes, and this is the purpose of the main collection. Marvel Movie Universe, MCU for short, number 99,999. The main Marvel comic universe, numbered 616. In that world, Nick Fury is a white man, Ancient One is a man, and there are more than 2,000 superheroes in the entire New York City, and there is a 3-second silence for the villains and ordinary people there." Wang Hao asked Tony to make this machine, and even opened Ocean's computing authority to him, not just for a phone. "Don't worry, the function you need is also ready." Tony smiled confidently. "And I'm also curious, the theory of parallel universes has been proved by us, but what does the multi-universe look like?" "Start operating the machine again, but this time, the displayed screen is different. For the sake of convenience, all I'm looking for are worlds with modern civilization, at least there must be a network. Then the detectors I put in can invade the local network to search for relevant information. If you want to know whether a world is the world you want to find, invading the network is the most convenient and direct means." Naturally, it is impossible for Tony to create a device that can know everything about the world in an instant, but internet news can tell him and open most of the world's situation. For example, the composition of countries, ethnic groups, time and age, the average level of science and technology, and so on. On the screen, pictures downloaded from the internet began to appear one by one. The black president of the United States took office, the female president took office, the captain president who did not die in World War II, a female Tony Stark, aliens in red cloaks and underwear, humans and talking animals live in peace. All kinds of strange pictures make everyone dizzy, as if they are in a fairy tale or a horror story. These worlds are real. The captain opened his mouth wide, and then he seemed to see something that shocked him, so he couldn't help but ask. "Definitely, there is no limit to the multi-universe. In our view, the possibility may be a real world, such as the world where the Nazis won World War II." Following the captain's gaze, Tony immediately understood why he was so shocked. World War II was just a story to him, but to this 90-year-old man, it was nothing more than something he had experienced a few years ago. If you really want to say, Nazis and aliens, I'm afraid he should be more familiar with neo-Nazis. "Hey, wait, lock that world." Wang Hao, who was also looking at the screen, stopped Tony and stopped the flashing images. "This one, what's special about this one?" Following Wang Hao's instructions, Tony zoomed in on the screen, and an article appeared in everyone's eyes. "A breakthrough has been made in clinical trials on mutant gene inhibition." "Mutant, what's that?" "Ah, that's a very interesting race. You can understand that the entire race is a superpower, and the powerful individuals among them even have power no less than mine." Wang Hao rubbed his chin with a very interested smile on his face. "Mutant does have someone as strong as him, definitely, not Phoenix, nor the Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff." Wang Hao refers to Franklin, the son of the boss of the Fantastic Four and the Invisible Woman. He is the strongest fighter in the true sense of mutant. He was able to create a miniature universe at the age of 5, and he is the destined creator and savior. But what Wang Hao is very curious about is whether he is so powerful because of the X gene, the source of mutants' ability, or because of his destiny. The identity of the creator god and savior that this multi-universe created for itself. "That's all, let's go to this world and confirm the specific coordinates." Wang Hao's words surprised everyone, and they realized that Wang Hao asked Tony to make this machine for traveling to other universes. Exploring the universe is neither comfortable nor much fun. Wang Hao is not satisfied with eating, drinking and having fun, so Wang Hao can only go to other worlds. At least, there are delicious food in those worlds, and different worlds have different stories. It can be called the best of both worlds. The coordinates have been determined, and every world where the picture appears has corresponding space-time coordinates, but do you really want to go? And you left, what should we do? Because of sneaking away to play last time, Tony was chased and beaten for 3 streets by Pepper after he came back, and vowed never to do this kind of behavior of leaving everything behind and running around. So this time Tony could only watch Wang Hao helplessly as he went to play. And he can't even leave, let alone the others. Now the Earth is troubled, the invasion of aliens has caused huge amounts of impact on the whole world. The general public finally knows that human beings are not alone in the universe, and this has triggered unprecedented social changes. Definitely, among them, the changes in Mio are still the most huge amounts of, not only the problem of aliens, but also the influence of the main body, the true God, on Mio. The combination of the Sun God sect and the Mei government has made this country very busy now, and it is not easy for them to find time to gather here to catch up with each other. Naturally, it is impossible for them to have time to follow Wang Hao to other worlds to play. If the world is destroyed after I leave, then I think it's better to destroy it. And, did you forget the rule of the shuttle? I'll be back in 5 seconds. After finishing speaking, Wang Hao held Chener's hand and was about to set off, but before he could move, Tony, who suddenly realized it, let out an exclamation. That's right, no matter how long we go, we will come back in 5 seconds. This is not traveling to the universe, it is going to a different time and space. After the words fell, a pair of pitiful and excited eyes were fixed on Wang Hao's face. And it seemed that he knew that Wang Hao disliked him for being talkative, so he also turned his attention to other people, signaling for everyone to form a group together. Ah, how about we go together? The captain didn't know what he was thinking, but after seeing Tony's gaze, he actually spoke. If we're back in 5 seconds, I'm fine with that. Natasha Romanoff raised her hand to indicate that she wanted to follow, and then all eyes turned to Thor again. It's the same whether I come back or not. Anyway, this world doesn't need me, so I'm going. Thor, who was in the decadent period of his life, said indifferently. There are many super ability users in that world, right? Then I want to see it too. Hawkeye said quickly. In fact, he didn't say what was in his heart. He wanted to see if he could give himself a super ability. After all, the entire Avengers, no, it is the Overwatch League now, and he is just an ordinary person in the entire alliance. Even Natasha Romanoff, she used to be a strengthening warrior and had been injected with some kind of genetic strengthening drug, but now, she who became a best friend with Chener actually learned magic. There is no way, the moon is the representative of mysticism and magic no matter in the East or the West. The East needs to absorb the power of moonlight to practice magic, while the West simply relies on the moon to transform into something, so my aunt is also the god of occultism and magic. As her best friend, Chener naturally did not hesitate to share some strength with her, and this also made the 2 weakest in the team become the weakest. So much so that Hawkeye wanted to play the idea of mutant ability. Then the only one who hasn't spoken yet is Banner, who is honestly making soy sauce on the side. Don't look at me, I'm tired of fighting and killing, and besides, I've given the power of the Hulk to others. I'm just an ordinary doctor with 7 degrees. The honest man Bruce Banner showed a simple and honest smile. Definitely if he didn't say the last sentence, everyone might think that he is really a good person. But now, is my PhD a big deal? Look down on the average level of education here, a junior high school graduate. Tony stepped aside silently, not standing with those scumbags who were injured by 7 doctorates. But the team is determined, as he said. He asked Wang Hao to transfer the power of Hulk to others. It was none other than a man named Steve Rogers. Yes, you read that right, the man with the shield in his left hand and the hammer in his right can now transform into clothes. And adhering to the inherent law that everyone except Bruce Banner who has the power of Hulk can preserve their complete consciousness, the captain can perfectly control the powerful power of Hulk. Coupled with the battle suit woven by the thunder power, he is still majestic after transforming. Alright then, let's go. After determining the space-time coordinates, there is no need for too many operations. There is no need for quantum tunnels and the like, but everyone stands together, and then Wang Hao stretches out his hand to tear the barriers of space-time, passage through. After holding the time-space gem and the experience of holding the full version of the Infinity Gauntlet, Wang Hao has already mastered the power of time-space proficiently. In fact, the sun is originally a symbol of time and space. The word time has the existence of the sun, and the sun is inseparable from the up and down and things in the spatial orientation. Therefore, Wang Hao's familiarity with the power of time and space is actually no worse than that of light and fire, but the time for him to acquire the ability is too short, so he learned it relatively late. It's still a familiar taste, a familiar way of traveling. Crossing a portal, there are two universes, two worlds. And for the watchman who suddenly appeared on the street, the residents of this new world also expressed their most kind greetings to them. It's mutant, burn those monsters to death. Call the police. The location where Wang Hao and others appeared was not in the middle of the road, but on the lawn of the roadside green belt near the road. So, in a way they didn't bother anyone, they just came out a little too cool. But the way the people on the street greeted them still took everyone by surprise. Did we do anything? The captain looked around suspiciously. Maybe, they trampled on the lawn of the green belt. But it's just a lawn. Why do these people look like they are facing a big enemy, and their eyes are like killing their father and enemy? 217. The parents guarded the child behind them, the man's eyes were vigilant, and the youth's eyes were full of longing and fear. Definitely, what caught their attention the most was that the two street policemen in the distance had directly drawn their pistols at their waists. Naturally, with the captain's eyesight, he couldn't see that the two patrolmen had opened the safety of the firearms in their hands. And that means he's always ready to fire. Kneel on the ground, put your head in your hands, you bloody mutant fools, stand up now. The patrolman shouted loudly, aiming the gun in his hand at the heads of the crowd, and finally locked on the leader of the crowd. Invisible's secret magic power was activated, and Chanur, who had always maintained the image of the girl next door, was extremely terrifying when she got angry. The people in the whole street felt that the surrounding temperature dropped a lot in an instant, and then the patrolman screamed and flew up, his legs struggling feebly, and the fear in his eyes revealed the depth of his heart. How dare you disrespect Wang Wu, big brother? For Chanur, Wang Hao is everything, let alone a policeman, even if the opponent is the whole world, she will not frown. However, her behavior did not make the situation better. Instead, there were more and more exclamations around her. Dreadful mutant, why don't you monsters die? Get out of our world. Get out of this country. Let go of that poor fellow, you demons in human skin. The cold little hand was held. Wang Hao prevented Chanur from punishing this guy. It's just an ignorant person, don't be angry about him. Let's go. Familiar with how mutants are treated in certain worlds, Wang Hao is too lazy to argue with these people. Because there is no result in the debate, their thinking has been brainwashed by politicians and the media. There is a high probability that the result of talking nonsense with them is that Wang Hao will slap them all to death in the end. But would he be comfortable that way? I am afraid that the politicians and vested interests in this world are more comfortable, because they use Wang Hao to confirm the harmful and dangerous theory of mutant, and then more people will support them. The light flashed, and the figures of Wang Hao and others disappeared before the eyes of everyone on the street, but in fact they were still here, but they just disappeared. What's going on in this world? After standing on the side of the road and observing for a while, when they found that Wang Hao and others had disappeared and left, everyone seemed to have pressed the reset button, and their lives returned to their original state. In the eyes of the captain and others, their state is no different from normal people. However, the previous crazy performance let them know that they are not normal. Or is it normal for them to look like this in this world? Someone can't help but think. Since you are here, you are not in a hurry to go back in a while, so why not take some time to understand the situation in this world? Compared with other people's doubts, Wang Hao understands the problem of mutant better, but it is difficult for them to understand directly, so let them see and listen for themselves. So, not long after I came to this world, the whole team disbanded on the spot. Wang Hao and Chanur were naturally in a group, and Natasha Romanoff, the one who was the best at blending in, took the person who was the most difficult to blend in with her, Thor. The remaining captains and Hawkeye formed a small team, while Tony chose to act alone. Because of the principle of everyone going out together to take care of each other, definitely, I mainly take care of you. There are many strange abilities in this world, so I have to put a mark on you, lest you die in a foreign land, and I will not be able to explain it when I go back. Quote. Before leaving, Wang Hao asked Hoshin to mark everyone. Definitely, in fact, he had other ideas, and then he smiled and waved amid the thanks of everyone, while he hid aside and started the live broadcast. Yes, the real purpose of Ugly Nose is to see what these travelers from different time and space will do in this world. This feeling is the same as playing a real-life simulation game, which has a different kind of fun. The so-called marking is just to let Hoshin control a certain spell, so that he can hear the instant sound. As for the image, he is the Lord of Light, all the lights and shadows are at his disposal, shooting at 360 degrees without dead ends. The first one, let's choose Natasha Romanoff. I think it will be very interesting to choose Thor as a fool. After choosing a target, the screen unfolded, and Wang Hao and Shanur lay on a special cloud bed, taking the most comfortable position. Hey, why did she go shopping and buy clothes as soon as she came up? Or underwear? Looking at Natasha Romanoff, who got into the fitting room, Wang Hao had an embarrassed smile on his face. But just as he was about to switch the camera and turn the screen to someone else, he saw Shanur reaching out to stop him, her little face full of excitement. Wow, Sister Natasha Romanoff changes clothes, I haven't seen it yet, this waist, these legs, wow, she is bigger than me. Shanur pursed her mouth, showing a trace of dissatisfaction on her face. You obviously like the big one, why didn't you make mine bigger? Ah, it's not good to be too big. Your figure is a little smaller than hers. This shape is the most suitable. Wang Hao laughed twice, but his gaze stayed on Natasha Romanoff for a while. Oh, you are still pretty, Shanur. But when she turned her head, she saw the half-smile expression on Shanur's face. Okay, you trick me. Hee, I don't mind, why are you so shy? Shanur said that she was 18, so Wang Hao naturally didn't hide her secrets, and the two of them got together to watch Natasha Romanoff's dress-up show. Speaking of it, Natasha Romanoff is also a weirdo. When I arrived in Otherworld, I didn't want to inquire about intelligence or anything, but went to a luxury store for a meal. As for money, in the eyes of a super agent who is proficient in 8 languages and is good at various infiltration skills and espionage skills, will money be a problem? Although Natasha Romanoff has a good figure, there is nothing to say, but after watching the big show for a while, I get tired of watching it. But for a while, Wang Hao didn't know who to watch, so he simply set up a split screen, and each team had a screen to show their actions. Well, Tony is surfing the internet in a coffee shop, searching for real-time information about the world, and the Captain and Hawkeye are wandering the streets, trying to get some information from the streets. But I'm curious how this team will get money for food. After all, the two of them but a pure combatant, and the captain probably can't do anything like Natasha Romanoff's empty-handed behavior. As for Tony, Wang Hao naturally wouldn't be so idle that he would be short of money. Although this is not his world, there is no Stark group in this world, but his brain is there. At his level of knowledge as wealth is not empty talk, and any idea sold to some technology group is worth tens of thousands of dollars. Hey, they're in trouble, Shanur suddenly said cheerfully. Wang Hao immediately looked up and saw that it wasn't Tony, the troublesome guy, but the Captain and Hawkeye, who looked harmless to humans and animals. There was no way, the two of them didn't know whether they had watched too many movies or something, so they really went to the street to inquire about the news. They said they were inquiring, but they were just wandering around there, and naturally, they attracted the attention of the gangs in that area, so a group of people surrounded the two of them. A bunch of normal people, but what do they do with it? Enlarge the screens of the Team Captain and Hawkeye, and connect the sound at the same time, and the deluxe version of the home theater begins. Hey, you two, what the hell are you doing? Tall and muscular body, although the face is a little white and tender, but the lumpy flesh is still solid. Even if the captain didn't speak, just standing there was very bluffing, so that the few who surrounded him didn't know if they were gangsters or real gangsters. They all maintained their superficial politeness. Ah, we're just wandering around, what's the matter, are there any private places here that we can't enter? The Captain and Hawkeye looked at each other, and the latter spread his hands, expressing that he didn't understand how this kind of street conversation should be carried out. Leave quickly, this is not the place for you to come. The person who asked the question was obviously unwilling to have a conflict with the two captains. Since the captain said that he was just wandering around, he simply let the two of them go away. But the captain didn't know which tendon was wrong. He felt that something was wrong here, or there should be some special news in this mixed place. So he actually stopped the group of people who turned around and were about to leave. "Hey, we are new here, just want to ask if there is anyone here that we can't mess with, so that we can know, so as to avoid collisions in the future." The captain's reluctance made this group of people furious. "Who the hell has the time to tell you this or that? Who do you think you are? Mazefac, to labor and management." A black metal object was pulled out from the waist. The familiar shape and metallic feeling were no strangers to the captain and Hawkeye. Then in the next second, he stretched out his hand to hold it down, pushed and pulled, and the murder weapon in the violent man's hand became a child's toy. The spring, casing and the bullet in the chamber all appeared in the captain's hands. "Hey, if you have something to say, we just want to ask for some news." The captain returned the parts in his hand to the other party, with a warm smile on his face. But it's a pity that the captain's intentional operation was deliberately provocative in the eyes of this group of people, or they felt that there was someone behind them, so facing the captain's smile, they responded with 5 black muzzles. "Captain, can you stand it? I don't have any equipment." "It's nothing to be pointed at by 5 guns, Hawkeye said that it's okay to be pointed at by alien cannons. But the problem is, at that time, he had a guy in his hand and a battle suit on his body, but now he didn't bring anything, and when he went out with a physical body, he would still die if he was shot. Well, even if he knew that Wang Hao would save him, he wouldn't necessarily die, but wouldn't it hurt if the bullet hit the flesh? Why are they so angry?" Compared with Hawkeye's little panic, the captain seemed much calmer. They were just a few punks. Although the muzzle of the gun was about to be pointed at his face, he wasn't afraid yet. It's not Yasuo who is going back and forth in the hail of bullets, but his captain Steve Rogers. Boom! The gunshot rang out, but the captain who had just moved looked behind him in surprise. It wasn't the people in front of him who fired, but the sound of gunfire on the road not far from him. "Excuse me, let's go." Pulling a Hawkeye, ignoring those guys with unfriendly faces, the captain came and went quickly, and ran directly towards the place where the gunshots sounded. It's just because it's not just gunshots that sounded there, but also the sound of vehicle collisions, screeching brakes, screams of the crowd, and all kinds of intensive gunshots that followed. A fierce road battle is going on. Who the hell is interested in playing with the punks? Bang, 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 crackling. The sound of a single shot was very obvious. Even if it was mixed with the sound of many overturned vehicles and various submachine guns, it could still be distinguished. This is the effect of a powerful and large caliber pistol. As for the so-called large caliber and high power pistols, if you dare to use this kind of thing, you must not only have thick and strong arms, but you must not be afraid of death. And obviously, this time the user is absolutely not afraid of death. "Francis, where are you?" 7. "Hey, you guys know why I go out in red? Because then my opponent can't see me bleeding." 6. 5. In the horrific scene of a car accident, a jumping voice kept ringing out. Between the clearly visible gunshots, his redundant words were like a Timo full of taunting skills, making people want to sew his mouth shut. Definitely, in the end, he must be beaten to death, dismembered, and crushed to pieces. Ah, that shot hit the bull's eye. The legs shrank, and the voice suddenly became much louder, as if someone had directly hit the chrysanthemum with a bullet, causing the whole house to glow. 4, 3, 2. The red figure is tightly wrapped from head to toe. The battle suit full of bullet holes and the double knives on the back make this figure look full of embarrassment and some kind of threat. At this moment, the red figure looked to the other side. The last 3 were there, but he only had 1 bullet left. Ah, enough. Deadpool's year-end show. Boom. A beautiful jump. Twist. This is good for a large caliber firearm. It is powerful. Even the hardest skull in the human body can penetrate 2 people, and it has enough power to hit the 3rd person. Wow, that's a neat move, but it's weird why he's still alive after taking so many shots. Behind a certain overturned car, the captain and Hawkeye who had just arrived saw the end, so they made some comments on someone's wonderful operation. "Hey, it's neat, I'm at the top level." However, what Hawkeye who spoke did not expect was that the killer in the red tights over there heard his voice. "Who are you two?" "Omega, Human Torch." "No, it's Captain Meg Woe." Deadpool, who ran to the side of the car, saw the figure appearing in front of him, covered his mouth in surprise, and couldn't believe what he saw. But his performance surprised the two captains even more. "You know me." "No, there is also Captain Meg Woe in your world." "Oh, this world of yours, haha, if someone else hears about it, they will definitely send you to a mental hospital to be friends with me, travel through time and space, parallel universe, who would believe it?" Deadpool's words became more and more confused and exaggerated, which made the captain and Hawkeye unsure. They suspected that Deadpool was also a time traveler, but they couldn't confirm Deadpool's true identity. Coincidentally, at this moment, the third person who had been shot and killed 3 times by Deadpool got up. It turned out that the impact force of the bullet was not enough after penetrating the skulls of the first 2 people. It only knocked him out briefly on the forehead, but it didn't penetrate the skull. Ever since, the remaining guy got up and drew his gun again while Deadpool was talking to the 3 captains. "Oh, no, I'm out of bullets, where's your shield, take it out and use it," Deadpool said with a look of panic, and even ran directly behind the captain to hide. But the captain naturally won't let him succeed. He doesn't know Deadpool at all, he doesn't know what kind of person he is, so naturally he won't block bullets for him. Definitely, if he knew, he probably wouldn't be able to block it. With a light and small grab, he caught Deadpool behind him, and then the captain turned around and stepped aside with Hawkeye. "Oh, Steve, you're murdering like that." Deadpool, who was pushed away, had a sorrowful tone, and then rushed towards the survivor who was rushing towards him without hesitation. Puff! The sound of the sharp knife piercing the flesh was very obvious. Looking at Deadpool, who had already stabbed the other party to death but was still pausing there, Hawkeye turned to look at the captain. "Steve, you did murder." "Definitely," Hawkeye refers to the guy who was stabbed to death. In this regard, the captain couldn't help but sigh. It's only been less than a minute since we met each other, and he already has a deep understanding of Deadpool's difficulty. God, who the hell is this guy? And what's going on here? The captain's question is destined to be unanswered, but Deadpool over there has made a new move. After stabbing Qian Haojiao with 2 knives out of the scabbard, the last person was killed, and he began to look around for his target, an arms dealer named Francie. It's just that what others sell are guns and ammunition, but what he sells are mutant slaves. The ear-piercing sound of motorcycles sounded, and the 3 of them turned their heads in unison. A man in black with a submachine gun in one hand and wearing a motorcycle helmet passed by, shooting at the 3 of them as he drove by. Seeing that the 2 of them were also being targeted, the captain couldn't help but swear, and then pulled Hawkeye behind him, blocking the flying bullets for him. As for himself, a ray of green light flashed under the clothes, and the few small-caliber submachine gun bullets slid down against the skin. With the power of the Hulk, which can be controlled by anyone except Bruce Banner, it is very easy to block a bullet. The Black Knight galloped past from behind, but Deadpool naturally wouldn't give him a chance to escape. As soon as he jumped up, although the gun in his hand was out of bullets, but he had a sharp blade in his hand, why use a gun? With precise throwing, the steel knife flew out, inserted into the front wheel of the motorcycle under the Black Knight, clicked, the sudden resistance caused the Black Knight to lose control of his figure, flew straight up high, and then hit hard on the in an accident car ahead. "Oh!" Seeing the Black Knight flying out at an unknown speed per hour, Hawkeye exclaimed, "This impact, if it was an ordinary person, I am afraid that it would have been completely dead." But it is obvious that the Black Knight is not an ordinary person, and the one who just fell is already struggling to get up. "Oh, what the hell are these guys? Earth is where we came from." Hawkeye and the captain looked at each other with deep doubts in their eyes. It's not normal for 2 random people fighting on the street to have strength far beyond ordinary people. Is this what they call mutant? What did the captain think of? When they first appeared, they were pointed at and scolded by those civilians, and they kept saying, "mutant," times. Could it be these people? The one in the red dress has a recovery ability that surpasses ordinary people. Well, at least he is not afraid of gun attacks. The gun hole on his arm has recovered to half. So fast. After observing for a while, the captain suddenly exclaimed. He didn't even notice that the bullet hole on Deadpool's arm grew half in just 1 minute. His strength is also very strong, but according to his attack method, it is an explosive technique mastered after receiving very outstanding training. If it is an ordinary person, Such an explosion will cause physical damage, but he just doesn't need to worry about this, so it appears more explosive and powerful. After the captain was injected with the super soldier serum, he went through all kinds of training, and after waking up, S.H.I.E.L.D. also provided him with all kinds of training conditions. Coupled with the improved aptitude ability of BID, the captain can be called a fighting master. Because of this, he can see the sharpness of Deadpool's movements and the secrets hidden in his various operations. Because he is not afraid of injury, he provides an upper limit of operation, and the protection mechanism of the human body is not applicable to him. As for that guy. After watching Deadpool, the captain looked at the Black Knight who was being unilaterally ravaged by Deadpool. Pain relief. There is also an increase in nerve response speed and enhancement of physical function. As a super soldier, the captain's eyesight made him quickly notice various details. No matter how Deadpool beat him, the knight named Francis whose helmet was removed did not show any change in expression. And this is impossible. You can hold back the pain, but you can't ignore the damage. Even a well-trained fighter can't go against the body's reaction. However, Francis's expression seemed to be that his body was not his own, so there was only one answer. There was a problem with his nervous system, and the perception of pain was eliminated. The captain is no stranger to this kind of situation. At the beginning, Hydra had such painless fighters, because they could not feel pain, so once they appeared on the battlefield, they would have only one ending, death in battle. If you don't know the pain, you won't be afraid, and naturally you won't shrink back. When Francis faced Deadpool's attack, even though he was unwell and had difficulty dodging, those small movements still showed that he predicted Deadpool's movement, but his body could not dodge. They are all monsters. Whether it's the regenerative healing factor or the painless warrior, they are all monsters to ordinary people, and the captain suddenly understands why those ordinary people hate mutants so much. Looking at this scene, the scale of this fight is much larger than those ordinary robbers made. "Hey, Captain," Hawkeye said suddenly. The captain raised his head and was about to ask what happened, but there was no need to ask. The plane that was landing in the sky had already explained everything. Very advanced technology. This fighter seems to be more advanced than S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Quinjet. Quinjet is a rare vertical takeoff and landing jet aircraft, but Quinjet is actually a trick. It uses rotor engines on its wings, which also makes it unable to fly at high speed and enlarge. But the fighter plane that landed in front of me at this moment is a real vertical takeoff and landing jet plane. It has no rotors, only a few jet ports that can rotate freely, and with that unique streamlined design, it can be imagined that its speed must be very fast. Wow, I didn't think of that. If the matter about the plane only surprised the two captains, then the person who got off the plane really shocked them. A little boy, he should be about 14 or 15 years old, but on closer inspection, he is a girl who has just developed. But the point is the hunk next to her. With a silver gray body, even the eyes and hair are completely metallic, plus the ground tremors caused by walking on the road. This is a real Titan. Steel Titan. Chapter 91. I know what mutant means. Hawkeye nodded emphatically. And this sentence didn't help except for making the captain give him a blank look. After seeing such a steel Titan, what else do we need to guess? However, according to what they said, it seems that the mutant situation is not an exception like the transcendents in our world, but a specific race. The captain touched his chin, and after a while, there were 3, maybe 4. Although the little girl didn't look like anything special, she might have some kind of super ability. Then, in a short period of time, 4 special people with super abilities appeared in one place. It seems that the number of mutants is quite a lot, at least much more than those extremely rare individuals in their world. If this is the case, mutant will indeed have huge amounts of impact on the lives of ordinary people. The appearance of 1 or 2 people with super abilities is an exception. Under the control of the government, it is very likely that ordinary people may not be able to know their existence. But if a group is formed and happens frequently, then the problem will be big. S.H.I.E.L.D. manages and controls emergencies in the global region, and naturally there is no lack of incidents about the awakening of the super ability. And the information about super ability awakening in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s archives clearly records that every super ability awakening is basically a disaster. The kind of awakening that has not affected the surroundings after awakening is only an extremely rare example. There are too many unsatisfactory human beings in real life, and human beings are a weak-willed race. When a person suddenly gains great power and has the ability to surpass the surrounding groups, it is difficult for him not to do something that violates the law and moral thing. For example, if a student is bullied by the campus, and then awakening his super ability, his self-confidence will swell at that moment when he was originally weak, and the situation is very likely to get out of control. Flames, toxins, electric current, these are the most common super abilities, but just imagine, what kind of things will a child who loses control of his emotions do in the school when he is angry? I can now understand the fear and hatred of those people. The captain sighed heavily. As long as the similar campus awakening appears once or twice, then mutant will inevitably be attacked by all parties. No one wants their child to live with a monster who will destroy everyone around him at every turn. From the attitudes of those people, it is conceivable that the mutant awakening in this world may not be as simple as just 1 or 2 times. And densely populated areas are not just schools, shopping malls, residential areas, or hospitals, etc. The damage and losses that an out-of-control superhuman can cause are simply immeasurable. It is reasonable to be attacked by groups. Wait, he seems to be interfering with that guy's behavior, but it doesn't seem to be related to the guy on the ground, some kind of organization specialized in dealing with mutant problems. If mutant is really a global, racial problem, as the captain thinks, then such an institution exists. Just like the shield of their world, it specializes in dealing with some peculiar problems that ordinary law enforcement personnel cannot handle. As we all know, this kind of department often hides a lot of secrets, and also has all kinds of information. So the captain immediately decided to deal with that big metal guy. Signaling Hawkeye to follow, the captain cautiously walked towards the metal hunk, although he felt that there would be no danger. After all, he even brought out children, but there was no guarantee that there would be no problems. But he was soon relieved, because what the big metal man said made him understand that this guy and the organization behind him are definitely on the side of justice. Wade, you can't abuse your super ability like this. Our ability is to let us do good things and make the world a better place, instead of killing innocent people and making the world worse. Bala bala. Hey, Colossus, number 1, these guys are definitely not innocent, it's him who made me like this, and he's still selling mutant slaves. Number 2. I've never been a nice guy, your way doesn't work for me. Deadpool shrugged, and then his eyes fell on the girl warhead who followed Colossus. Hey, cutie, whose family are you from? Oh, you have a bad temper. She clicked on the nose of the warhead, and then she opened her hand in embarrassment. Deadpool continued. Charles Xavier abused child labor like this and no one cares. Hey, someone here violated the employment law, the police, I want to call the police. Or you can't afford other X-Men, why are you the only 2 dispatched? Professor and they are all busy with other things. Wade, you have to go back with me to meet the professor, I can't let you continue to misbehave outside. Hearing the familiar address, Deadpool tilted his head suspiciously. Professor, is it Stewart's version or McAvoy's version? Oh, the timeline has been a bit confusing lately. Hey Captain, how are the Avengers doing? Compared to this heavily X-Men, I want to join your Avengers, it sounds bloody. I am an Avenger now. Team leader, Colossus turned his gaze to the captain and Hawkeye who were approaching. Are you Wade's companion? Although it is strange why Deadpool would know about the Avengers, the captain is obviously unwilling to get too involved with this bloodthirsty killer. He wants to have a good relationship with Colossus at this moment, so as to learn more about this world and about mutant. No, I don't know him. In fact, I even learned that his name is Wade from you. As for the captain, that's my nickname. I'm also very surprised why he knows. Looking at Deadpool who turned his head to ravage Francis again, the captain shook his head, and then showed a relatively warm smile. 960. By the way, you are X-Men. The captain just heard the conversation between Deadpool and Colossus, so the organization that Colossus belongs to should be called X-Men, and their leader seems to be a professor. Yes, we are the X-Men, and the situation here is under control, so you don't have to worry. Alright, Wade, let's go. Mistaking the 2 captains for passers-by, Colossus took out a pair of handcuffs from his waist, and directly grabbed Deadpool's arm with one hand. In a sense, an ability like Colossus is the absolute nemesis of a skilled fighter like Deadpool. But seeing that they were about to leave, how could the captain let go of such an opportunity, so he quickly stopped Colossus and said with a distressed face. Hey, since you are X-Men, I hope you can help me. Actually, I am also a mutant. After all, the captain clenched his fist, and a green light surged from his fist, making one of his arms bigger, not to mention, the power brought by the muscle expansion was also full of shock. Oh my god, it wasn't Colossus who was surprised. After all, he had seen too many fellow mutants begging for help. It was Deadpool who exclaimed. Seeing the captain use Hulk's ability, this neuropathy who can see through the dimensional wall went down instantly. Hulk, what's wrong with you? I didn't expect you to be such a captain. You actually ate Hulk, my fat green. You died so badly. Deadpool's extremely fake and exaggerated acting skills left everyone speechless for a while, but everyone now understands that this guy must have a problem with his brain, so no one intends to care about such a psychopath like him. Okay, a hand dart was shot from the sleeve, and the precise technique interrupted someone's thoughts of escaping, and made everyone turn their eyes away. Oh, Francis, why are you so dishonest? Pop. He kicked Francis hard in the face who was still sneering over there, and Deadpool turned his head to look at Hawkeye who had just shot just in time. Okay, I'm going to bet you on your matchup with Green Arrow. Who is Green Arrow? The captain turned to Hawkeye and asked. How do I know, isn't that the brand of chewing gum? Hawkeye froze for a moment, then frowned and replied. He just interrupted Deadpool by the way when he said that the guy on the ground was a slave trader, and that guy really didn't feel like a good person to him. But no matter what, the farce can be ended. Deadpool, who captured Francis, finally failed to escape the ruthless hands of Colossus, and was caught by him one by one and boarded the Thunderbird fighter. As for the two captains, they were also invited by Colossus to go to the academy for a visit. Your plane is very good. I don't quite understand. This was designed by Hank. He is the smartest person in our school. I heard that he seems to be one of the top scientists in the world, and he even won the Nobel Prize. Colossus replied while driving the fighter jet into the sky. This made the captain and Hawkeye nod secretly. It is true that only people with high IQs of this level can design such a fighter with outstanding performance, and a team similar to the Avengers really needs scientific masters like Tony and Banner. Logistical support. By the way, what are you studying? Seeing that Colossus is big and rough, but he always speaks in the same way, and even the captain feels a little ashamed when he talks about the truth, so the captain is very curious about his profession. Oh, I'm an art student. Pete is an art teacher in our college, and his paintings have also held a personal exhibition. Sitting on the seat and chewing gum with Deadpool's big-eyed bullet. And these words made the captain and Hawkeye almost suspicious of life. Colossus is at least 2 meters tall, a little shorter than Hulk, but with his powerful steel body, no one will doubt him if you say he is a brick mover or a bodybuilder. But such a big guy actually learned to paint. Isn't the paintbrush the same as a toothpick in his hand? While everyone was chatting, the fighter plane had passed the city of New York in this world, and came to Westchester County outside the suburb. In less than 10 minutes, the fighter plane landed slowly on the basketball court of a manor. Let's go, I'll take you to meet the professor. Park the fighter plane, take the elevator from the hangar to the first floor, turn a corner, and a group of people came to a large office on the southeast side of the manor. Before approaching, the captain and Hawkeye heard a familiar and hearty laughter. While they were wondering, the door was pushed open by Colossus, and in the room, a young scholar sitting in a wheelchair was facing them, and in front of them, a young man with a bright and sunny smile was chatting and laughing happily. You guys are here. Wong Hao turned his head, looked at the surprised-looking captain and Hawkeye, and motioned them to sit down. This is Professor Charles X. Xavier, the principal of this academy, and the leader and founder of X-Men. And this is Steve Rogers, the captain and founder of the Overwatch League. The world that Wong Hao first went to, Earth 1, there is no mutant there, maybe there will be in the future. After all, Mickey Mouse bought 20th Century Fox, and the copyright of X-Men returned to Marvel. But at least not yet. So Wong Hao has always felt quite regretful. It is a pity that he cannot see more superheroes appearing under the same sky. He managed to travel through a time, but in the end he could only see those few people from the Avengers Alliance. That would be too boring. So after returning from Earth 2, he asked Tony and Banner to upgrade the space-time beacon in order to explore other possibilities in the multi-universe. This is not his imagination. In the comics, there are many similar devices. The boss of the Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic, has made similar devices so that he can contact himself in all parallel universes. Because he feels that other people are too stupid, and only discussing research with himself can benefit technological progress. In addition, there is also a cable whose world is still in the future for the time being, and its time travel device is also known day by day. Even made a lot of big events. So Wong Hao asked Tony and Banner to try, and he found it. You know, X-Men was released before Iron Man in the Marvel movie universe. For Wong Hao, Wolverine's role is as deep as that of Tony Stark, who dangles around him every day. As for Fasha and Kazumi, it can be regarded as a relatively well-known point in the restarted X-Men. Well, the magic shark Magneto hasn't seen it yet, but the professor in front of him is indeed a US version, that is to say, this is the X-Men world restarted by reversing the future, not the one in the old trilogy. Please sit down. After listening to Wong Hao's introduction, the professor asked the captain to sit down with a smile on his face. He didn't know what kind of organization the so-called Overwatch Alliance was, and out of politeness, he didn't try to find out what the captain was thinking. Definitely, this is mainly because Wong Hao is next to him. He had just gone to the CIA to meet an old acquaintance. On the way back, he met Wong Hao greeting him. That smile made the professor not have any negative impression, and he soon became friends with Wong Hao and invited him to the school for a discussion. During the conversation, he also learned the identity of Wong Hao, a powerful god. Although subjectively speaking, he thinks that the theory of the gods is just a joke. Based on his knowledge reserve, all the gods in their world are actually ancient mutant awakening. He even saw the prototype of the devil with his own eyes, the red devil that has survived for thousands of years. His image is almost exactly the same as the devil in myths and legends, but he is not a real devil, just a mutant. So the answer is obvious, that people in ancient times described him as a mythical creature. In the same way, subjectively speaking, the professor also thinks that when Wong Hao says he is a god, what he really means is that he is a powerful mutant. But for some reason, when Wong Hao said so, the professor believed it. He really thinks Wong Hao is a god, not a mutant. Is this a kind of spiritual suggestion? Or spiritual pollution? As the most powerful psychic on Earth, he can control all human beings in the world at the same time. The professor was surprised to find that his spirit was invaded by Wong Hao. Definitely, not active, but passive. It's like a kind of halo. As long as you get close, you will be affected, just like the sun. As long as you get close, you can feel his warmth and brilliance. And the influence of Wong Hao reflects the professor's unreasonable trust. Now I also think subjectively that he is a great god. After all, I am afraid that only gods can do this kind of thing. When he found out what had happened to him, the professor thought to himself. Then his attitude towards Wong Hao became more respectful, and when the captain and Hawkeye appeared, he suppressed his curiosity and did not explore the hearts of the captain and others. Because he knew that once he did it, he would definitely not be able to hide it from Wong Hao, and the result would be offense and conflict. No one wants the secrets in their hearts to be seen by others, not even the closest lover. What's more, it's just a stranger meeting for the first time. However, although he didn't go to see the captain and Hawkeye's heart, another visitor was at the disposal of the professor. Looking at the pervert in the red tights in front of him, well, according to Colossus' description of him, the professor summed up Deadpool as such a person. Although Colossus is highly recommended, whether this person can join the X-Men, Professor still intends to take a look for himself. Well, Professor, I suggest you better not do that. Seeing the professor habitually raised his fingers and placed them near his temples, Wong Hao suddenly made a sound. His thinking is a little confused because of the relationship between cancer and ability conflict. In professional terms, he is a mental patient. Hey, who are you? You are slandering me. My mind is normal. Oh, the sun on your body is so dazzling. Did you turn on special lighting effects? Wong Hao's voice made Deadpool very dissatisfied, but his speech made the professor frown, and then looked at Wong Hao, who was sitting there peacefully. It's normal and not annoying at all. And this also made him pay attention to Wong Hao's rhetoric. Psychiatric patient. Then he should stop watching. The mental world of a mental patient is extremely chaotic and noisy. Although he has a powerful mental ability, it is very dangerous for him to rashly enter the mental world of a mental patient. Seeing that the professor dispelled this idea, Wang Hao was slightly relieved. Let him read what Deadpool saw slowly, but Wang Hao remembers it very clearly. There is a Marvel comic that clearly records the consequences of the professor watching Deadpool's memory. He couldn't accept the fact that he was living in the comics and was a fiction, so he had a nervous breakdown on the spot and committed suicide. There is no way to check Deadpool's spirit, but the professor can't just let him join the X-Men so easily. After all, there is no precedent for this. So far, all members of X-Men have been transformed from non-combatants. If a mercenary like Deadpool with blood on his hands joins them, the changes brought about by this team will be extraordinarily huge. Therefore, the professor can only wait and see. After letting Colossus take him down, the professor chatted with Wang Hao and the captain. Now, the captain has achieved his goal. In Wang Hao's introduction, he learned that the professor is one of the most powerful mutants in the world, and he is also the leader of the mutant Dove faction. The best way to communicate. So the captain directly stated that he and the others were time travelers, and the professor was also very calm, accepting this point very casually. On the contrary, Beast Hank, as a person with a high IQ comparable to Tony and Banner's IQ, is more interested in time travel. In fact, it's normal for the professor to disapprove. What kind of ability doesn't exist in mutant? Traveling through time and space couldn't be more common. The professor's spiritual consciousness can travel through the stars, and in the future, his spirit will indeed be able to travel through time and space. In the animated version of Reversal of the Future, it was he who sent the spirit back to the past through the brainwave machine to contact Wolverine and other X-Men to deal with Sentry. Dakin, the professor's future son, is also a mutant who directly masters the ability to travel through time and space. In a parallel world, he also traveled to the professor when he was young. He wanted to help the professor kill Magneto, but accidentally killed the professor. A big event for the X-Men. By the way, do you have an address for Magneto? Seeing that the team leader and the professor suddenly had a chat, Wang Hao suddenly felt a little bored. Mainly there are a bunch of little kids in the college now, few of whom Wang Hao is familiar with. Wolverine wasn't there either. Phoenix glanced at her just now. She was a teenage yellow-haired girl who didn't look like an intellectual royal sister at all. Storm hasn't seen it yet. It seems that the time has not come yet. Cyclops, Wang Hao is not interested in him at all. So Wang Hao decided to meet the young Magneto, the Magneto played by the man who was called the Magic Shark by the audience because of his huge grin. But for Wang Hao's question, the professor shook his head. He doesn't have a good relationship with Magneto now, and he is angry that he abducted his adopted Smurf. The two haven't been in touch for a long time. Forget it, I'll look for it myself. Seeing the professor shaking his head, Wang Hao stopped bothering him and directly called Ho-Shen to control the light around the world and start searching for Magneto. After a while, Wu Tian's voice came. Target found. Okay, see you next time. Waving at the professor, Wang Hao disappeared in front of everyone, and in the next second, his figure appeared in a country in Eastern Europe that was famous for the first blitzkrieg by the head of state. Waves. Oh, what a coincidence. Wang Hao, who used light to teleport, appeared right next to Magneto, and when he left the Mutant Academy, a woman who could freely change her shape happened to walk into the gate of the academy. Therefore, the scene he saw at this moment was that Magneto was kneeling on the ground with ashes on his face, and the corpses of the waves patrolling fell all around him. In Magneto's arms, there were two corpses, one large and one small, still warm. Closing square bracket. Whoosh. Driven by the metal chain, the exquisite pendant flew towards Wang Hao at high speed, but the moment it approached him, the same force blocked the chain, making it unable to move. Who are you? Magneto, whose wife and daughter died tragically in his arms, looked at Wang Hao, who appeared in front of him in grief, but he also understood that Wang Hao was also a mutant and not with those patrolmen. Who am I? Well, you can call me a god. The brilliance flowed, and strange streams of light took the corpses of Magneto's wife and daughter out of his arms. Magneto just wanted to fight back, wanting to take them back, but he soon realized something, and casually looked at Nuo Lihao Wang Hao expectantly. And since Wang Hao made a move, he naturally did not disappoint him. In fact, these streamers were just putting on a show, telling Lao Feng that he was saving them. The power of life poured in, the wounds were healed, their hearts were activated, and their consciousness was awakened. It was as simple as that. The two women, one big and one small, were resurrected with full blood on the spot. Wang Hao came just in time. From a medical point of view, the two women are actually not dead yet. It was just being shot with an arrow, how could it be so easy to die? Judging from a professional medical point of view, no heartbeat, no pulse, and no breathing are considered death. Only when the brain stops activity can it be counted, and the brain must stop activity for more than half an hour. So this cannot be regarded as resurrection, at most, it is just a cure. Wang Hao, who cured Magneto's wife and daughter without any hassle, felt a great sense of accomplishment when he saw the family of three hugging each other and crying. When I watched this episode before, I felt that Magneto was quite miserable. When I was a child, my parents died, and then I was imprisoned in a concentration camp and was experimented every day, and was forced to develop ability. Revenge is revenge when I grow up, but my compatriots are shouted and killed again, and the result of helping mankind is abandoned and targeted by mankind. Now it's hard to have a family, the result is good, the wife and daughter died suddenly, no one can bear to take revenge on the society. So Wang Hao doesn't mind spreading his brilliance as the sun god and giving Magneto a little warmth. Definitely, he knew Magneto would definitely pay off. Magneto is a showman, and the showman will definitely give you a lot of face in doing things. For the kindness of saving Magneto's wife and daughter, he will definitely repay it like a cow and a horse. Sure enough, Magneto came to Wang Hao after hugging each other and staged an emotional scene. First he bowed and saluted, and then asked with a grumpy face, "What do you need me to do for you?" The person he loved the most was killed in front of him, and the reason was that he helped others. At this moment, Magneto was furious in his heart. He has already thought about it. Even if Wang Hao now wants him to assassinate the president again and attack the White House again, he will absolutely say nothing, just copy the guy. But, if Wang Hao wants to do that kind of thing, he still needs Magneto to do it. Cough, what are you doing? I haven't figured it out yet. As he said that, Wang Hao's eyes suddenly turned to the little girl over there, Magneto's daughter Nina. It is definitely not Wang Hao who has thoughts about her, but Wang Hao suddenly remembered Magneto's other two daughters. Scarlet Witch Wanda and Polaris Lorna. I haven't seen Wanda on Earth 1 yet. I don't know if there is Elizabeth's explosive figure. As for Lorna, she should be the future daughter of Magneto in this world. Wang Hao doesn't know whether the drama of extraordinary ability is the timeline of this world. Wang Hao asked Ho-Shin to calculate it, and the result is whether it is. Sentinel has been put into practical use in the extraordinary ability, and in the X-Men series of movies, Sentinel is different in terms of power and timing. In addition, the timeline of the X-Men series and Deadpool is connected. The timeline is more like being in the same world as Wolverine 3. Ho-Shin sorted out all the information in Wang Hao's memory and came up with the result, which also made Wang Hao lose his thoughts about the Magneto daughters in this world. Wanda and Miss Polaris Lorna are still very good, at least they can be predicted when they grow up. Definitely, the most important thing is that they each have their own unique charm and personality traits. Good-looking skins are the same. Wang Hao can easily create a bunch of so-called once-in-a-thousand-year beauties. Interesting soul is the key. Soul is not so simple for him to pinch. What are you going to do next? Although he said that he had nothing to do, it was okay to watch Magneto make a big scene, and Wang Hao obviously had an idea when he saw Magneto's angry face. Bib, teach humanity a lesson. And Magneto's answer is simple and straightforward. Could you please take care of them for me? Looking at his wife and daughter, Magneto chose to believe in the mysterious and powerful Wang Hao. After all, without Wang Hao, his wife and daughter are almost completely cold now. Go, I will take care of your wife, don't worry about it. Although he didn't know what Wang Hao was talking about, Magneto still understood that Wang Hao agreed to his request, so after talking to his wife and daughter, he resolutely turned his head and left regardless of his persuasion. Big brother, thank you for saving us. Seeing her father leaving, Nina walked up to Wang Hao. From her father's mouth, she already knew who her savior was, and she was kind-hearted by nature, so she also had a natural affection for Wang Hao. And Wang Hao, who had some thoughts about the little girl's sister, also responded with a smile after seeing her. Have you eaten yet? My wife is asking me to eat. do you want to go together? Haoshan, who received a certain message, reminded Wang Hao, and Wang Hao was embarrassed to leave these two weak girls here. After they nodded, a light flashed, and the three of them appeared in a developed country in Europe. Street. This sudden scene change amazed Nina and her mother. They all knew that Magneto was a mutant. Nina also had the super ability to communicate with other creatures, but they had never seen an ability like Wang Hao. Definitely, it wasn't just the two of them who were surprised, there was also a woman who was also surprised. Why did you go out, and there are two more women by your side? After Wang Hao went to Mutant Academy, Chanur, who was walking around the street, squatted down and looked at Nina, who was obviously immature. After knowing that she was not Wang Hao's favorite, she looked at Nina's mother. Well, wife, Wang Hao doesn't have this kind of preference. Definitely, what she said was just a joke. Knowing Wang Hao deeply, she knew that this could not be Wang Hao's concubine, because if it was, Wang Hao would definitely ask her to inform her in advance, just like Anna same time. Wang Hao took Magneto's wife and daughter to dinner, but Magneto encountered some small problems. He wanted to take revenge on those workers who were rescued by him, but then notified the police and almost killed his wife and daughter. Definitely, originally he might have planned to crush them all into pieces, but now, his thoughts are a little gentler, and it is enough for one person to break one leg. He felt that he should be kinder, maybe it was because of his good deeds that Wang Hao was saved from despair. Otherwise, with his temper, it's really not a big problem to kill a bloody river. But the key point is that when he arrived at the factory, a purple-skinned weirdo appeared with a half-grown kid. Then the weird man waved his hand, and all the workers in the steel factory belched. I am. Looking at the dead workers, Magneto was dumbfounded on the spot. He didn't want to kill them. After all, this time, his wife and daughter were not dead, so he still wanted to live on. Well now, these people are dead, and they will all be counted on his head, so he is still living a fart, and the whole world will want him again. Are you ill? The place where Magneto works in seclusion is a steel factory, that is to say, this is his home field. Suddenly, the steel everywhere was summoned instantly, and a layer of invisible magnetic field affected the metal particles to form a solid defense around Magneto's body, and then, countless metal blades aimed at the Apocalypse 4 who had just run over. That's right, it was Apocalypse and others who just ran over. Because of a certain female CIA agent who was not helping her, Wakey, who was awake, started to make troubles everywhere. And the first thing he has to do is follow his obsessive-compulsive disorder and find 4 bodyguards for himself. Angel, Storm, and Psylocke are the first 3 people Apocalypse found, and the 4th one he is looking for is Magneto, the scene man who takes care of the whole scene. But he never expected that because of Wang Hao's intervention, this Magneto did not fall into despair because of losing everything. On the contrary, he has just been given hope by Wang Hao, and the good life of his wife and children can continue. Ever since, the appeal of Apocalypse hit a wall directly. You are all my children, follow my call. Who are you fooling when calling on your uncle? On Hiroto, I am your ancestor. Would Magneto, who specialized in abducting mutant second-year teenagers to engage in terrorist activities, be fooled by these words? Originally, he followed Apocalypse just to push the boat along the way and want to take revenge on the world. Well now, Apocalypse caused him to be wanted by the whole world again, mother. Don't be disrespectful to your master. Magneto repeatedly rejected and humiliated Apocalypse, making the Apocalypse Knight behind him furious. Angel walked out directly, the steel wings spread out, and then a sharp wing flew out directly, stabbing at Magneto. Go away, brat. With a thought, the steel wings flew back in the direction they flew from, and the speed was even faster. Angel quickly folded his wings together and turned into a shield to stand in front of him. Clang! After Magneto's control, the power of this wing is stronger than that shot by Angel himself, and it hit him, making him feel very depressed. Join me, child, and I will reveal the ultimate power to you, and show you the true power of God. Seeing that his knight was frustrated, Apocalypse was not angry, but became more interested in Lao Fang. After Angel's catalysis, his strength has reached his peak, and he is already an extremely extraordinary existence. The steel wings can attack and defend, and they are proficient in melee and long-distance combat. Angel's physical functions have also been greatly improved. In terms of strength and physique, He is far superior to ordinary people, and he also has a special healing ability. All of these are very qualified as a fighter. But Magneto just repelled it casually. This is not due to Angel's deficiency, but because Magneto is too powerful. And this kind of power made Apocalypse very coveted, and wanted to bring it under its command more and more. But Magneto had had enough of his beeps, and with the metal blades around him, Magneto was about to turn around and leave. He is not interested in fighting these people, which in a sense is revenge for those workers. And he was even less interested in recruiting that weirdo, so he just left to find his wife and children. Clang. However, Magneto's ignorance was not enough to make Apocalypse give up. After being verbally rejected, he planned to use force directly. Show off your fists first, and then let you decide whether to hang out with Zhao Nuohao or not, and that's it. But Magneto is naturally not easy to bully. As soon as Apocalypse makes a move, he reacts, and the magnetic field defense is immediately formed, surrounding him. Get out of here. Infinite metal particles turned into a stream of light and rushed towards Apocalypse and his knights. Psylocke directly turned his psychic energy into a shield in front of him, while Angel still folded his wings, and Storm was protected by Apocalypse behind him. Boom! The purple sharp blade slashed out, powerful, and fell on the top of Magneto's head, and then, a metal wing attacked again. Not only that, thunder rumbled in the sky, dark clouds were densely covered, and then, a bolt of lightning was pulled towards Magneto and smashed towards Magneto's face under the traction of Storm. Although the thunder of Storm's messenger is not as powerful as Thor's thunder, it is lightning after all, and it is something that mortals will die if they touch it. However, the circle around Magneto's body is a strong magnetic field. And his magnetic field is the most powerful defense in the world. You know, when scientists conduct nuclear fusion experiments, they rely on magnetic fields to restrain the hundreds of millions of degrees of high-temperature fusion impact, and this kind of defense, how can Storm's mere lightning can break it? Magneto Eric Lenscher, who was attacked again, raised his eyes and looked forward, his eyes became more and more cold. The entanglement of Apocalypse and others made Eric, who was anxious to go home and reunite with his wife and children, become more and more impatient. If he was still concerned about these people being his compatriots before, so he was not willing to deal with cruelty, then now, this scruple it's already starting to wane. Buzz! Magneto clenched his fists tightly, and the entire iron and steel plant roared, not only the steel and mineral materials everywhere, but the entire structure of the plant trembled and groaned. I said, get the hell out of here. However, what responded to him was the continued attack of the three Apocalypse Knights. Angel rotated her wings, using her wings as blades, turning into a metal storm to cut the magnetic field in front of Eric. Storm gave up the lightning, and gusts of wind surrounded her, and then rolled everything around Magneto, wearing down Magneto's defenses. That grinding sound was unbearable, and it brought Magneto's anger to the extreme. Over the past 10 years, because of his seclusion, Eric has not engaged in a big scene for a long time. In the past, he made big scenes to intimidate his opponents and human beings. And these years, because of the hidden relationship, he has no chance to display his ability instinct. However, under this depression, he developed ability into a new field. In the past, whether he was destroying bridges or moving stadiums, it was the power of Big Biddy on a macro scale, and what he pursued was big, strong, and spectacular. But now, what he is looking at is the microcosmic field, which is fine. Laugh. Several steel ingots were silently turned into metal particles under Eric's control, and then those extremely fine metal particles turned into a stream of light and surrounded him. When he appeared in front of everyone again, a layer of armor covered Eric. Not only that, but a metal throne appeared under his feet. Since you want to play, then I will accompany you to have fun. The ferocious smile made Apocalypse's heart skip a beat. He had been watching the battle, but he didn't make a move, and he suddenly realized that he seemed to have done something that shouldn't be done. It turns out he did. Although in that movie he died by Phoenix Force, that's not the case in other worlds. In other worlds, he died at the hands of the King of Magnetism in front of him. This Magneto is enough to tear him apart without the help of others. Boom. Before Apocalypse made up his mind to do it himself, Magneto over there didn't want to wait any longer. He has lived in seclusion for more than 10 years, and his daughter is almost ready to marry. These 10 years are the golden period when mutant strength has improved the most. And he is no exception. 20 years ago, he helped Charles build a brainwave machine. Although the drawings were provided by Beast, he is also a senior engineer himself. So he is not following the gourd, he really understands how the brainwave machine works. Then, he thought of putting this way of increasing his ability. And here comes the result. Metal Throne. This is his brainwave machine, but what is amplified is not his mental power, but his magnetic field. The violent roar interrupted the attack of the Apocalypse Knights. They stopped their movements and felt the tremor of the ground, and looked at everything around them with amazed eyes. All metal creations floated up under the control of an invisible big hand, not just those steel ingots, those iron objects. The entire factory, including its underground foundation, the surrounding ore, and everything related to iron, all began to move as if they had gained life. Bang bang bang. The sound of metal collisions was endless, and Magneto's figure flew up under the weight of the throne, and those metals had all been turned into the most basic materials, surrounding him, constantly colliding and intersecting, and then became part of a huge fortress. Welcome to my kingdom. In other worlds, Magneto built Keo Island, Mutant Kingdom Kenosha, and a small planet. Mastering one of the 4 basic forces, the electromagnetic force, he was born a master architect and the best engineer. For ordinary engineers, the most important and basic building mechanics is something that he can see with his own eyes. And this metal fortress, a hollow battle fortress floating in the air with a diameter of hundreds of meters, is the most perfect work created by combining his own ability and knowledge. And at this moment, he is no longer the king of magnetism, but the god of magnetism. As long as he thinks, the rotation of the entire Earth will be changed because of him. Just like now, all the metal substances underground in the entire steel plant are under his call. The scene people are making a big scene. Charles, we have received news that there is an abnormal fluctuation in the magnetic field on the other side of the waves. Hank, who hurried into the office, turned on the TV while talking. And there is such a thing in the sky. Huge amounts of metal fortresses lie across the sky, and countless metals surround it flight, as if satellites surround the Earth. I said, he's in trouble, and we're in trouble. Mystique Raven looked at his big brother. Although he was not close, he did spend his childhood with this guy. Well, it seems that we have to go to the waves. Captain, I'm sorry that I can't continue our conversation. It doesn't matter, but listening to you, you seem to need help. If the professor needs it, I think I can help. Hearing what the captain said, Charles's eyes lit up, and he immediately said gratefully, "That's a big thank you. To be honest, there has been no one in the academy who can lead a new team. Pete's character is too weak to be the captain. Hank's way of dealing with problems is immature. The other children have not grown up. Stand up." The professor didn't pretend to be reserved. He really needs help now. The current college is in the period of 2 generations of X-Men changing, and the talent pool is scarce. And the most important thing is not the fighter with super ability, but the leader. People with super abilities are very rare in other worlds, but not in this world. For the mutant group, there is never a shortage of powerful fighters, especially for the X-Men. The professor casually connected the brainwave machine, and all the mutants in the world were in his field of vision, and then it was just a matter of fooling around. So combat power is not the key, the leader is the key. He doesn't have to have a powerful super ability, even an ordinary person is fine, as long as he has the ability to integrate team members together, and can make judgments and command the situation. Definitely does not necessarily mean the judgment during the battle. When encountering various things, he must be able to stand up and take responsibility for the team members. The reason why the future professor entrusts the college to Wolverine is actually because Wolverine has experienced the vicissitudes of the years, and has experienced 2 world wars and various wars. He is mature enough to lead the students in the college. And Steve Rogers is undoubtedly such a captain with outstanding personality and leadership ability. This does not require the professor to read minds. After such a half-day conversation, the captain's words and deeds can already make the professor make such a judgment. Definitely, this is also because of Wong Hao's face. If before today, the most powerful person the professor has ever met was his student Chin Gele, then now, this title can be transferred to Wong Hao. In the professor's super powerful telepathy, the majestic and boundless power is hard to match even the piano. At the moment he didn't know the existence of Phoenix Force. If he knew, he would understand the gap. After all, the body of the piano is just a piece of Phoenix Force. If it is a complete Phoenix Force, let alone a piano, the whole universe will be broken apart. Hey, Captain, do you think I'm going? Walking in the corridor, behind him are a few people from the academy whom he just met. Hawkeye leaned over to the captain and whispered, I don't have nano armor this time. Hawkeye hinted slightly. He came to this world this time to see if he could get himself a super ability or something, but now he hasn't got the super ability yet, so he is about to participate in this kind of super war. To be honest, he was a little panicked. However, facing his worry, the captain smiled slightly, and then took out a familiar small piece of iron from his bosom. Don't worry, I'm prepared. I still need you to help me take care of them. As he said that, the captain handed the small iron block to Hawkeye under surprised eyes. After Hawkeye took over his nano armor, he looked back at Hank, who looked more like a technical geek than a warrior, and Raven, who was hot and handsome. Don't worry, I promise to take good care of you. The Thunderbirds were ready, and suddenly a hole opened in the basketball court in the academy, revealing the hangar underneath. 0. Amidst the roar, the fighter took off under the control of Beast Hank, and Hawkeye sat on the co-pilot as the co-pilot. There is basically no difference in the operation of aircraft in the two worlds, so Hawkeye is not difficult to operate. After reaching the stratosphere, the plane entered the autopilot mode, and it was not until then that everyone had a chance to chat and get acquainted with each other. What's your super ability and nickname? The first to speak was Beast, who hadn't participated in a battle for a long time. At this moment, he is elegant and easygoing in the image of an ordinary person, and the object of questioning is Hawkeye, who is his co-pilot. My nickname is Hawkeye, and I don't have super abilities. Hawkeye was a little speechless, and finally said aggrievedly. But he immediately looked at Hank with a refined face, and after careful scrutiny, he still didn't see anything special about him. Just like the support staff in S.H.I.E.L.D., they are dumb, talking about various scientific terms that others don't understand all day long. And you? My nickname is Beast, super ability, that's what this nickname means. Hank smiled sheepishly. He didn't like to be like that. After all, he wouldn't be able to pick up girls that way. He was in his 30s and still single, hanging out with his good friend Professor all day long. It's not that he doesn't want to find a girl, the main reason is that, like Banner, he has low self-esteem and is afraid that after finally finding someone he likes, others will be afraid of his other appearance. Beast, you seem the most civilized of us. Hawkeye glanced at Colossus in the back seat. The guy was holding a poetry anthology and reading it with great enthusiasm. 893, but the book was no bigger than his palm, and if he was painted green, Hawkeye would definitely think he was Hulk's brother. You'll have a chance to see that, and to be honest, I kind of miss you that way, Hank. Mystique in the back seat heard the conversation between the two, couldn't help interjecting, and then looked at the captain again. In your world, is there really no mutant? A world without mutants seemed incredible to her, but she couldn't help but imagine that if she lived in such a world, maybe she would have a happy childhood. Question mark. Instead of being abandoned by your parents and being treated as a monster by others. In our world, there are also special people with super abilities, but they are just special people. Their abilities come from many sources, such as experimental accidents, genetic mutations, etc., but they are much less than mutant in terms of scale and frequency of occurrence. That's why you two humans will help us, not stand against us. Raven said with a self-mockery. The captain had nothing to say about this. He tried to think for a while. If there is S.H.I.E.L.D. in this world, then he might indeed target mutant on behalf of ordinary people. The decides the head, and he is an ordinary human being, so he must fight for the benefit of human beings. What's your ability? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to violate your privacy on purpose, but I need to know the ability of my companion so that it is convenient for battle command. Mystique. As for my ability, Raven didn't say anything, but directly showed it to the captain. So the captain saw himself appearing on the opposite side. Okay, I probably got it. By the way, if you copy someone else's appearance, can you copy their ability? If it is possible to copy other people's appearance while also copying their ability, then this ability is undoubtedly extremely powerful. And Mystique is naturally not so powerful. Although Sentinel used her genes as the basis to successfully create the mutant destroyer of kaleidoscopic shapeshift, but as the provider of that shapeshifting gene, she did not develop the ability to that extent. Mystique's answer made the captain understand, and he also understood that, except for Colossus who was studying seriously, the other two people might not be able to help him. Beast. What kind of beast can shake such a steel fortress? Or is there any beast more ferocious than Hulk? The speed of the Thunderbird fighter is very fast, and it only took a short time to cross the Atlantic Ocean to Europe under the supersonic flight. And when the captain and others arrived, the situation here had already attracted the attention of the whole world. Boom, boom, thunderstorms all over the sky gathered above the waves. This was not a storm summoned by storm, but a celestial change caused by an abnormal geomagnetic field. The change in the sky was only secondary. When the fighter plane barely landed near the incident site, they realized that this place was no longer recognizable as a small town. The ground of the entire town has been flying up, and countless huge stones are suspended in midair, forming a chain. Everything around here floated up, and under the influence of this weird magnetic field, the metal in the soil lifted everything up, making them obey the call of the god of magnetism. What a big scene! Seeing all this, Hawkeye couldn't help but marvel, and then quickly pressed the small iron block to his chest to activate the nano armor. Only in this way can he feel some peace of mind. Bow and arrow. The bow and arrow. Whoever mentions the bow and arrow, Hawkeye is in a hurry with whoever. Familiar feeling, this is indeed something Eric can do. From pulling submarines, controlling countless missiles to pulling out stadiums, demolishing bridges and railways, etc., Magneto's scenes are getting bigger and bigger every time. It can be said that Hank and others have watched how Magneto has become the person of this scene step by step. Then the question is, how do we get in? Mystique looked at the small town shattered into pieces floating above the whole town, and felt a sense of powerlessness in her heart. She was the one who came to save Magneto, but now it seems that Magneto is not the one who needs to be saved. Just wait here, the three of us can go in and have a look. Looking at such a big scene, even the captain couldn't help but feel apprehensive, but when he thought of the scene when he fought against the Thanos Legion, the scene of the flagship firing a salvo, he mustered up his courage again. But wait a minute, after all, the scene was a bit big, so the captain still stretched out his right hand and pointed it at the direction they came from. What is he doing? The action of the captain stretching out his hand made everyone stunned for a moment, and they couldn't help asking. Sometimes it does take a while. Hawkeye looked enviously at the captain over there, and then looked in the direction of America, where they appeared in this world. As early as when they crossed together, the captain put the hammer there, and no one could take it away anyway. Whoosh! When the satellites of all countries were pointing at the waves, their satellites also detected an extremely abnormal flight object flying from the Americas to the waves at extremely high speed. And the speed of this flight object is so fast that it even exceeds their fastest supersonic aircraft. Boom! Deafening thunder suddenly sounded. Although there were constant thunderstorms in the sky, the distance from the ground was actually not bad. And the sudden thunder made several people in the X-Men startled, not knowing what happened. No, get out of the way. Hank, who had been fiddling with an instrument, let out a cry. His instruments detected a sudden surge of energy above their heads, and as his shout fell, a thunderbolt as thick as an arm fell. Thunder struck straight in their direction, and Hank rushed towards Mystique Raven without saying a word, trying to push her away, but no matter how fast he was, it couldn't be as fast as lightning. After an explosion, the thunderbolt landed on the captain's body precisely, and at the same time, a hammer that pierced through the air appeared in his hand. The thunder surged, and disappeared without falling, and then, the silver light shone, and the mighty and extraordinary armor appeared on the captain's body little by little. Sailor Moon, Steve Rogers, transform. This sudden scene naturally made the three of the X-Men's eyes widen. They had seen a lot of super ability. They can transform themselves too. Mystique can transform into whoever she wants. But this is the first time they have seen the way of looking for Thunderbolt, and then changing into a set of shiny armor after Thunderbolt, and even changing their hairstyle. What kind of miraculous operation is this? It turns out that there are no mutants in your world, but is there such a strange thing? Mystique and the others didn't know where to start the countless complaints in their hearts, but after seeing the captain transforming with a small hammer, thunder began to flash in his eyes, and then he waved his hand. Let's go. The little hammer flew up, and then violated Newton's first law, Newton's second law, and Newton's third law in Newton's classical mechanics. It kicked over the urn of Newton's ashes, which was actually cremated, and he flew away. Stand up. Driven by his swinging hammer, the captain flew up. Hank, as a high IQ scientific talent not inferior to Tony and Banner, almost got angry when he saw this scene. But the captain had already flown into the town under the pull of the hammer, and Hawkeye and Colossus followed closely behind, but one of them flew in midair with the armor, and the other relied on the strength brought by the body of steel. The power runs fast on the ground. The gorgeously transformed captain is coming quickly, and in the center of the town, Magneto, who is getting bigger and bigger, has also encountered the strongest opponent he has ever encountered since his debut. Yes, Yin-Chi couldn't hold back after all. After repeated attacks by his three knights, they were unable to shake Magneto, but Magneto's magnetic field became stronger and stronger under the boost of the metal throne, and gradually formed such a field around him. Apocalypse finally found out that if he let Magneto go on like this, it seemed that he couldn't contain Magneto's power. In the movie, after recruiting the four knights, he will increase their ability, which is actually not considered an increase, it can only be regarded as awakening. Awaken ahead of time the abilities they may develop in the future. But only for Magneto, Apocalypse did not increase or awaken his power, he just let Magneto feel the geomagnetism in advance. Give Magneto early access to Earth's magnetic field. And in this world, because of Deadpool, the timeline is very chaotic. It seems that what is being undertaken is a timeline that reverses the future, but in fact, it is the 21st century. In the old version of the X-Men trilogy, at this time, Wolverine has already started to contact X-Men, and Chingri and Cyclops have already grown up. But there is no way, in the world where Deadpool exists, chaos is the norm. In fact, except for Wong Hao who discovered this, no one else is aware of it at all. Apocalypse also didn't know this, so he didn't know that in another very similar world, he would be afraid of Magneto, who was recruited as his knight, and he didn't even dare to tap his inner potential. But in this world, he has come to the opposite of this Magneto, Eric Lenscher. Normally, if he wins Magneto, and it is a big victory, then he may still have a chance to continue to gain Magneto's allegiance. But Apocalypse's method is nothing more than coercion and lure, but in this world, Magneto's most cherished wife and daughter are now guests at Wong Hao's place for dinner. No matter whether it is coercion or lure, it is useless. Also holding the Apocalypse that subdued Magneto for his own use, he made a bold move. After thousands of years of reincarnation, Apocalypse has accumulated countless super abilities, which can even be described as omnipotent. But in the same way, there is a saying that one trick is eaten everywhere. Fighting is not based on who has more abilities, but who has stronger abilities. Whatever your abilities are, Magneto said that I only have one trick, which can defeat your supernatural powers. The colorful glare spewed out, and the energy that could easily smash the building into powder was useless in front of the strong magnetic field. Then Apocalypse changed its method again. The violent electric current surged, electric snakes danced, golden dragons went out, and the whole battlefield was lit up like someone lit a 100 million watt LED lamp. However, electromagnetic force, electricity and magnetism have always been inseparable. Under the action of the magnetic field, Apocalypse's purple electricity fluttered, and thousands of thunders turned into invisible. Being beaten twice, Magneto will naturally not sit there and get beaten in vain. Boom! Magneto's retaliated metal jet hit Apocalypse's purple shield. The same powerful attack was enough to instantly annihilate the entire building, but there seemed to be no waves when it hit the purple shield. Yes, the landmark buildings of modern human civilization, high-rise buildings made of reinforced concrete, have unfortunately become units of measurement here. And this also vividly shows how terrifying these two mutants are compared to ordinary people. In their eyes, human habitations are just toys that can be destroyed at will. Just like building blocks in children's hands, they can be pushed down as soon as they are pushed. So it is no wonder that Apocalypse, an old monster, would have the idea of being above all living beings and trying to become the god of all living beings. Because he is too powerful, so powerful that he can treat all living beings like ants. But now he has to face another god. God of magnetism. After changing various attack methods, Apocalypse has no way to break Magneto's magnetic field protection. Indeed, for Magneto, who can mobilize the entire Earth's magnetic field, his own magnetic field strength is still higher than that of the Earth. To break through his defense, the Nengwang needed is nothing. For the calculation method, just use how many big mushrooms to describe the calculation. Apocalypse soon discovered this, and he also found that his own shield might not be as strong as Magneto's defense. But it doesn't matter, Magneto's magnetic field defense is indeed strong, but unfortunately, it cannot defend against all attacks. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding earth and rocks began to desertify and turned into dust. A large amount of earth and rock, attracted by Magneto's magnetic field, flew into the sky, and the fragments of soil in the sky were broken down into particles under the control of the elements. Then, under the guidance of powerful psychokinesis, layer after layer of shells formed, and outside Magneto's fortress, a whole new shell was being assembled. You want to trap me here? Magneto discovered Apocalypse's intentions immediately. Yes, the magnetic field defense can resist shocks, insulate temperature, and repel electric fields, but the problem is that he is immortal, and his body is a mortal body, which means that he needs something that humans also need. Air. If Apocalypse traps him in this eggshell, even if he can endure prolonged hunger, the air will eventually dry up. Magneto, aware of Apocalypse's intentions, naturally would not sit still. The metal fortress began to disintegrate, and apart from the platform carrying his throne, the surrounding fragments quickly turned into pieces of sharp blades and began to fly. Driven by the magnetic field, the sharp blades fly extremely fast, and each sharp blade has the power close to that of an electromagnetic cannon projectile. The eggshells gathered around were instantly smashed to pieces. But when it comes to manipulation, how could the yin layer lose to him? The sand and dust shattered and mixed into the metal storm, and the dust and sand were everywhere. Although Magneto maintained its own magnetic field defense, it was not so subtle about the outside situation. And those sand and dust began to plunder and erode, and after a while, those flying sharp blades became riddled with holes and fragile. Magneto, who discovered that something was wrong in time, immediately began to control the metal elements again, and gathered them back. But unfortunately, because of the lack of that momentary control, his defense had already appeared loopholes. The dust all over the sky surrounded and moved up again, surrounding the outside of the smaller metal fortress. A large amount of dust and elemental substances surrounded the fortress and completely blocked it, and Lao Feng's eyes fell into complete darkness. The magnetic field crosses, and an aurora lights up in the eggshell, making Magneto see light, but being trapped in a cage has become a fact. Boom. Driven by the magnetic field, a metal projectile hits forward at an unimaginable speed. However, after the layers of sand and dust are constantly reduced, the power of the projectile is getting weaker and weaker. From the outside, it seems that the outside of the eggshell bulges out, and then it returns to its original state. Yes, the eggshell, which should have been hard, turned soft under the skillful control of Apocalypse. Jiao Jiao, Magneto's uninterrupted attack, all kinds of shells, drills, all through. But this eggshell made of sand and gravel particles is like a rubber ball, which you can round and flatten, but you just can't tear a hole. Surrender to me, child, and let me show you true greatness. Outside of the eggshell, Apocalypse, who thought he had a sure chance of winning, started to soothe again. After being reincarnated for so many years, this is the first time he has encountered such a powerful mutant as Magneto. Compared with his previous subordinates, Magneto is undoubtedly the most exciting companion for him. Do you really think you've won? Inside the eggshell, upon hearing Apocalypse's call, the corner of Magneto's mouth suddenly raised, and then, he took out a big baby from his bosom. Hey, dear. In a certain restaurant on the banks of the Seine, Magneto's wife, who was watching her daughter happily eating dessert and talking and laughing with the young man in front of her, took out her mobile phone from her pocket. This is 2017, not the 1970s, what happened to a cell phone? Are you guys okay? Sitting on his throne, Yuanfang was on the phone with his wife indifferently. Although he seems to be in prison, he is someone who has seen big scenes, so he doesn't care about such small things. He actually talked to his wife and children casually like this. And he was chatting on the phone inside. In the eyes of outsiders, his behavior was stubborn resistance. But Apocalypse is not in a hurry. The last reincarnation, he has obtained the most critical super ability, immortality. So he has a lot of time now, and some time is spent slowly here with Magneto. But the two of them are exhausted, others don't think so. Less than 100 meters away from Li Tianqi and Magneto, behind a boulder magnetically suspended in the air. The captain in shining armor, Hawkeye in battle armor and Colossus, the three of them gathered together to discuss. At present, the Magneto will not be dangerous in a short time, but it's hard to say. As for the purple weirdo, it's strange, why do these people like to be purple? The captain said something suspicious. Thanos is purple, Apocalypse is purple too, is purple their lucky color? Lin Tay, I need you to help me attract attention, he still has 3 subordinates, right? Find out where they are, and then draw them away with Pete. In the captain's view, the goal of this operation is rescue rather than bloody battle. The intention of that purple guy is unknown, there is no need to fight him to the end, their goal is to rescue Magneto. So the captain quickly formulated a battle plan, and he personally faced Apocalypse. The action begins. With a sharp whistle, the silvery arrow pierced through layers of rubble and pointed directly at Apocalypse's face. Boom! The sharp arrow pierced through the air and hit Apocalypse's purple shield, causing a powerful explosion. Go and finish them off. After Apocalypse glanced sideways, he ignored it, and behind him, Angel spread his wings and headed towards the place where the arrow came from. With Magneto, he has little power to fight back, and he just needs someone to vent his anger. Captain, that Birdman has already left. I'll take him for a walk first. Putting away the bow and arrow transformed from nanomaterials, Hawkeye looked at Angel flying towards him, started the engine, and began to shuttle among the chaotic rocks. On the ground, a tall and strong figure was running fast, with silver-gray skin and a body made of steel, possessing an incomparably tyrannical strength. What? Colossus Pete picked up a boulder and threw it viciously at Apocalypse. Laugh. The purple light blade split the boulder in half, and Psylocke, who was holding a knife in one hand and gushing out a purple energy blade, looked at Pete who looked like an Iron Man, and suddenly frowned. Can you shock him? Psylocke handed her opponent over to Storm. Metal conducts electricity, this is common sense, it would be more convenient for her to strike with lightning, wouldn't it? But Psylocke's idea of soy sauce didn't work. Storm summoned lightning as she said, and it did hit Pete. But the problem is, the electric current that ordinary people touch and die is not powerful enough for Pete, and it just makes him numb and even a little bit refreshed when hit on the body. So a giant Iron Man with sparks and lightning started to chase Psylocke there again. The sound of footsteps sounded like heavy drums, and the extremely oppressive body made the two of Psylocke's mood collapse. All 3 knights are drawn away, and finally, Apocalypse is left alone outside the eggshell. Seeing this, the captain didn't hide anymore, waved Mjolnir, and charged directly while driving the lightning bolt. HMPH, little bug. Apocalypse clearly sensed that the captain was not a mutant, which made his attitude very cold, not as patient as he was with Magneto. A stream of purple energy spurted out and collided with the thunder summoned by the captain, but it was just a feint. The captain is best at melee combat. Under the glaring light, the captain appeared in front of Apocalypse in a flash, and the small hammer directly hit Apocalypse's chest, and at the same time punched and kicked out, not giving Apocalypse a chance to react. The captain's idea is very simple. As long as Apocalypse has no time and energy to keep restraining Magneto, then Magneto can rush out by himself. At that time, Magneto who rushes out cooperates with himself and others, and Apocalypse will naturally have to retreat. So when he came up, he used an extremely oppressive style of play. The power of the small hammer was boundless, surrounded by thunder and lightning, and the captain's body strength, which was full of thunder power, was as powerful as Thor's fist. Hammer sparks. Heavy hammer. Then heavy hammer. The captain completely treated Apocalypse as a piece of scrap iron and forged a hammer there, smashing his head and face. A series of attacks perfectly reflected the characteristics of Thunderbolt. Short and fast. It arrives in a flash, and when it touches the minute, it will never be muddled, and it will never be lingering. The purple light shield kept flickering. Although Tianqi's defense was very powerful, it was equivalent to a blow from Thor's heavy hammer, or Hulk's fist to Lao Tai. With such an attack strength, no matter how powerful it was, there are always times when the shield is difficult to maintain. After all, there must be a gap in your energy output, and there must be a process. This is the advantage of melee combat, the rhythm is faster, and it is more difficult to resist, rather than who has a louder voice against bow at a distance, no, who has more energy reserves. But once the melee combat starts, it will be faster and more violent than anyone else. And Captain Loon, who is using the power of Thor, is definitely fast enough and fierce enough. 303, even, between fists and kicks, wisps of green light were about to move under his skin. It was Hulk's power to feel the battle. I can't wait. But it's not time for the Hulk to strike. The captain's continuous attack made it difficult for Apocalypse to parry. He couldn't help showing surprise, looking at the captain, who in his eyes is not a mutant, but an ordinary existence of ordinary people. But he didn't know that compared to him, the captain possessed the power of Thor and was more worthy of the title of God. The gods are not something that can be done by being powerful. If that's the case, wouldn't Mie be more qualified than most gods? God represents a personality. It is only out of ignorance that mortals regard powerful creatures as gods. The real gods are all powers bestowed by heaven and earth, and are decrees given by the universe. To be more specific, it is after death. In addition to the powerful power of the gods in the Marvel world, the biggest feature is that they enjoy privileges after death. Mortals will enter the kingdom of death and reincarnation, but gods will not. The captain who holds Mjolnir has the power of Thor, but he has not obtained the godhead of Thor. No matter how generous Odin is, he will not give up his son's godhead. But it is undeniable that if the captain dies in battle while holding Mjolnir, he will not enter the kingdom of the dead. His soul will be led to the Soul Castle in Asgard and become a heroic spirit enjoying another kind of eternal life, just waiting to be summoned one day in the future, endowed with divine power, and continue to fight. This is the real purpose of Odin throwing the hammer around. This is a profitable business for him. In addition to training his son, he can also harvest a powerful and heroic warrior for Asgard. At the moment, Apocalypse, who was bombarded by Thor's force, could no longer remain calm, and his defensive shield was in jeopardy. Once he showed his flaws, the eggshell that imprisoned Magneto would also shatter. Ants, you are challenging your god. Accompanied by a roar with a special sound effect, Apocalypse's body was full of purple light, and he forced the captain back. Afterwards, the surrounding yellow sand turned into a sharp blade and cut directly at the captain's throat, but such a crude attack could hurt ordinary people, so how could it hurt the captain? Sorry, the only god I believe in is the sun god, he can't be you. The shiny silver battle armor was cut wildly by the sand blade, but the captain was unscathed. On the contrary, he was beaming when he saw Apocalypse's anger rising. Because he knew Apocalypse couldn't keep calm anymore. Then let's get angry. The captain thought so, and then held up the small hammer. The flashing lightning in his eyes suddenly changed color. Then in the eyes of Apocalypse, this elegant and handsome human being suddenly began to look ferocious and violent. After the green light, the figure skyrocketed, and the muscles swelled as if they were inflated. In 2 or 3 seconds, the captain's size went from 1.9 meters to about 2.4 meters, and his size became even bigger. If it wasn't for the armor that he was wearing now that was transformed by the divine power of thunder, he would have exploded long ago. Hulk, green light and electric light flickered in his eyes, and Hulk appeared with the power of thunder. Boom! With huge amounts of kicking the sole of the foot on the ground, a deep pit was instantly sunken in the ground, and the cracked ground showed the power of this foot. And such a powerful force pushed the captain's body forward, and the air swayed a circle of ripples, which was the trace of a sonic boom. His power at this moment was even faster and more terrifying than a cannonball. Boom! Almost in an instant, Apocalypse was knocked out by the captain holding the hammer. The purple shield sank deeply, but it was still less than an inch away from Li Tianqi's face. But the captain has already attacked again. The hammer was the first, and it hit out with one hammer. The captain hit his head and feet, and then flipped over, chopping down heavily with his thick right leg. The overtaken Apocalypse hit the ground directly before he could breathe. A larger deep pit appeared here, and in the sky, the eggshells outside the steel fortress wrapped in layers also burst. Apocalypse's defenses were breached. The roaring thunder and the noisy battle outside poured into the steel fortress. Magneto, who was still on the phone with his family, looked up in doubt, and his wife's inquiry followed on the phone. Eric, what's going on with you? Are you fighting someone else? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.